Chapter 2800. Carefree Divine Pavilion was quite famous in Dallas City. Many cultivators liked to gather here, drink, make friends, and gather information. Su Fong entered the first floor of Carefree Divine Pavilion, his gaze sweeping across the spacious hall. There were many cultivators in the hall, but Su Fong did not see Hua Tianyu's figure. However, he sensed his presence. He had actually disguised his appearance. Why is this Hua Tianyu as strange as Gao Tianlei? Su Fong raised his eyebrows and smiled. Huang Do, this is your reward. Go. Su Fong gave Huang Do 100 lower-class medicinal pills. The cultivation resources in heaven-forsaken barren region were scarce and Huang Do was born here. 100 lower-class medicinal pills were no different from a large sum of money to him. He had only led the way for Su Fong once and was rewarded with 100 medicinal pills. He was overjoyed and thanked Su Fong profusely. Su Fong came to Hua Tianyu's table and sat down opposite him. Su Fong was now disguised as a 20-year-old. His appearance was ordinary and he even looked a little down. Hua Tianyu naturally did not recognize him and raised his eyebrows. Friend, there's someone there. Su Fong transmitted his consciousness to Hua Tianyu. It's me. Hua Tianyu was pleasantly surprised. Su Fong, you're finally willing to come out. You've been in Dallas City all these years? That's right. Su Fong nodded. Why did you disguise yourself too? Were you being hunted? It's scarier than being hunted, Hua Tianyu said with a bitter smile, and then told Su Fong everything. So, after separating from Su Fong in Dallas City, Hua Tianyu and Gao Tianlei stayed in Dallas City, not daring to show their faces. Just 100 years ago, the jade scroll that recorded the scene of Su Fong stopping the invasion of Dongxian suddenly flowed into Dallas City and spread at an alarming speed, causing a stir in heaven-forsaken barren region and the entire Dongxian to be shaken. Only then did Hua Tianyu and Gao Tianlei dare to show themselves. Unfortunately, Su Fong was cultivating in seclusion at that time and sealed the rune talisman used for communication. They were unable to contact Su Fong. Who knew after those jade slips were leaked, Su Fong's name quickly spread throughout the eastern profound divine realm. Especially in the heaven-forsaken desolate region, there was no one who did not view Su Fong as their savior. That was the truth. If Su Fong hadn't destroyed the world-crossing profound gate, the experts of the foreign races would have continuously entered the eastern profound divine domain. The first place to bear the brunt would have been the heaven-forsaken desolate region. At that time, no one in the heaven-forsaken desolate region would have survived. If Su Fong wasn't the savior of the heaven-forsaken desolate region, what was he? Moreover, Su Fong was from a low-level universe. The lowest level of cultivators in the heaven-forsaken wilderness were descendants of cultivators from low-level universes. This was why the heaven-forsaken wilderness had gotten its name. Su Fong disregarded everything and saved countless mortals and cultivators in ancient Blue City. His action won the admiration of all the heaven-forsaken slaves cultivators. As a result, Su Fong's reputation in the heaven-forsaken desolate region rose to an unimaginable height, even surpassing the Dallas sect's leader. This was nothing. It was said that the powerhouses of Dongxuan's various forces had gathered in Dallas City. There were also many experts from other divine realms. Even the Destiny Stage's big shots had arrived. There were also rumors that the Destiny Stage was planning to take Su Fong as a direct disciple. Although these rumors could not be taken seriously, they were not groundless. This proved that not only had Su Fong's name spread throughout Jiuquan, his future identity would also be extraordinary. Su Fong had concealed himself. Once Hua Tianyu, Gao Tianlei, and the other cultivators appeared, they were immediately recognized. In the end, Hua Tianyu and the others became the targets of countless heaven-forsaken desolate region cultivators, hoping to build a relationship with Su Fong through them. Even if they could not build a relationship with Su Fong, To make friends with Su Fang's friends like Hua Tiannu was a supreme honor for the heaven-forsaken desolate region cultivators. Hua Tiannu, Gao Tianlei and the others were surrounded by countless cultivators all day long. They were also annoyed. In the end, Hua Tiannu had to change his appearance and hide. Su Fang was dumbfounded, unable to say a word for a long time. For a moment, he felt like he was in a world of ice and fire. Previously, he had been chased by Great Elder Zhongsun of the three highest mysterious sects and Supreme Elder Chuanqiu of the Heaven Pavilion like a stray dog. Now his name had shaken the heaven-forsaken desolate region, Dongxian was shaken, and his name had spread throughout Jiuquan. Su Fang shook his head with a bitter smile. He did not expect this at all. He calmed himself down and asked, "You said that the major forces of the Eastern Xian divine region, as well as the experts of other divine regions, have all come to Wudao City?" "That's right. The Heaven Pavilion, the three highest mysterious sects, the Luo Shao Sword Sect, and other major forces of the Eastern Xian divine region have not only sent experts, but also many geniuses. Many experts from other divine regions have also come. An extremely powerful expert from the Western Xian divine region has come. It is said that he is a Dao Saint expert. There are also experts from the mysterious destiny stage who have come to Wudao City. Now, these experts are investigating the invasion of the foreign tribes. Other than searching for your whereabouts, they are also pursuing the heaven-piercing Blood King vine that has sneaked into the Eastern Xian divine region." Hua Tiannu's words made Su Fang completely relieved. With so many forces and experts, there was naturally no need to worry about Great Elder Zhongsun and Supreme Elder Chuanqiu, especially when there were Dao Saints from the Western Xian divine region. Su Fang guessed that it was most likely Daozu of the Western Xian divine region who had secretly sent orders to help Su Fang resolve this crisis. Originally, Su Fang had planned to escape into the Blood Valley. Now, it seemed that there was no need to flee for his life. However, he would have to make a trip to the Blood Valley sooner or later. He would treat it as an experience to improve his strength. Su Fang now understood that at a critical moment, no matter how great one's reputation was, it was useless. Only strength was the greatest reliance. While the two were conversing, Su Fang's eyebrows suddenly furrowed. A woman walked towards the table where Hua Tiannu was sitting. It was one of Su Fang's old acquaintances, Zhong Daiyun. If not for Zhong Daiyun, Su Fang would not have obtained the rainbow blood lotus, nor would he have been able to catch the weaver spider. Therefore, Su Fang owed Zhong Daiyun a huge favor. "Lord Hua Tiannu, so you are here." Zhong Daiyun sat down beside Hua Tiannu. So she was here to find Hua Tiannu. Zhong Daiyun and Gao Tianlei knew each other, and Gao Tianlei was with Hua Tiannu. It was not strange for her to know Hua Tiannu. "Lord Hua Tiannu, have you contacted Su Fang?" Zhong Daiyun asked as soon as she sat down. Hua Tiannu glanced at Su Fang. Seeing that Su Fang had no intention of acknowledging her, he asked, "I wonder why Miss Zhong is looking for Su Fang. Why is it so urgent? Why don't you tell me? Maybe I can help Miss Zhong." Zhong Yiyun's face was filled with worry. She said slowly, "It's okay to tell Lord Hua Tiannu the truth. I'm in quite a bit of trouble right now. I'm afraid that only Su Fang can help me." So, Zhong Daiyun had a very snobbish father. Last time outside Wudao City, Su Fang forcefully sealed the border. Zhong Daiyun originally wanted to acknowledge her, but her father stopped her. The result was too late for regret. A few years ago, Zhong Yiyun's father went behind her back and made an engagement with a prodigy with a strong background. He tried to climb up the social ladder. Naturally, Zhong Daiyun did not want to do it. It was a stalemate until now. Who knew that the prodigy actually came to Wudao City and forced Zhong Daiyun to marry him? Furthermore, that prodigy had a strong background. Zhong Daiyun could not afford to offend him at all. He had a strong and domineering personality. He shackled Zhong Daiyun's father and used that to force Zhong Daiyun. Zhong Daiyun had no choice but to ask Hua Tiannu for help. She hoped to find Su Fang to help solve the problem. I see. Hua Tiannu chuckled. With Su Fang around, Zhong Daiyun's matter was not a problem at all. Then, Hua Tiannu stared at Zhong Daiyun and asked, "Since that prodigy cares so much about you, why didn't you agree?" Zhong Miaoyun snorted. "That person is just an idiot with a golden exterior. What qualifications does he have to be my Dao companion?" Hua Tiannu glanced at Su Fang and said with a smile, "It seems that Miss Zhong's standards are very high. I wonder if Su Fang is worthy of Miss Zhong?" Su Fang glared fiercely at Hua Tiannu. Zhong Daiyun's beautiful face turned red in an instant. Then, she sighed, "Su Fang is such a peerless figure. Which girl doesn't want to be his Dao companion? I do want to become Dao companions with him. I'm even willing to be his concubine. But why would he like me?" Su Fang rubbed his nose hard. He wished he could send Hua Tiannu flying with his divine might. Willing to be Su Fang's concubine? When I have the chance, I will definitely tell Su Fang. Ha ha! Hua Tiannu laughed loudly. He was very happy. At this moment, how many people in the entire Eastern Profound Divine Domain could make Su Fang suffer? How could he not be happy? Hua Tiannu's laughter attracted the attention of many guests on the first floor of the Free Unfettered Divine Pavilion. At this time, a group of young cultivators with extraordinary auras and clothes were walking into the Free Unfettered Divine Pavilion. They were also attracted by Hua Tiannu's laughter. Seeing these people, Su Fang's heart trembled. What a coincidence! He actually met a large group of acquaintances here. The number one disciple of the three supreme profound sects, Gu Tianqi. The peerless geniuses from the heavenly pavilion, Dongxian Jun, Dongxian Zheng, and Ling Xingchen of the three supreme profound sects. There were also a dozen unfamiliar faces. However, all of them had extraordinary auras. They were handsome and confident. Clearly, they were all peerless geniuses from the various major forces of the Eastern Profound Divine Domain. Among them, there was a silver-robed youth who walked side by side with Gu Tianqi. Clearly, he was at the same height as Gu Tianqi. Judging from his aura, he should be from the Eastern Profound Heavenly Pavilion. Moreover, his status was clearly much higher than Dongxian Jun's. Behind those geniuses was a large group of young cultivators. In any profound world, they would be called geniuses. However, looking at their identities, they were only the followers of these geniuses. Gu Tianqi and the others walked upstairs. It seemed like they were going to hold a gathering of geniuses. Many guests in the hall were intimidated by the aura of these geniuses. None of them dared to breathe loudly. Su Fang thought to himself, "I'm just about to find Gu Tianqi and ask him some questions. Also, it's time to deal with that Dongxian Zheng." Those geniuses walked upstairs. The young cultivators behind them stayed in the hall on the first floor. Clearly, they did not have the qualifications to join the circle of these top geniuses. A young cultivator was attracted by Hua Tiannu's laughter just now. When he saw Zhong Daiyun, he immediately revealed a look of pleasant surprise and walked over. Chapter 28:01. Don't be afraid. Who cares about Chen Renjie's background? He won't dare do anything to you. Hua Tiannu smiled carelessly, not taking the young talent seriously at all. With Su Fang around, how much trouble could the young cultivator named Chen Renjie cause? Zhong Daiyun did not know that Su Fang was right in front of her, so she was skeptical of Hua Tiannu's words, feeling uneasy. At this moment, the cultivators in the hall began to discuss the top geniuses of Dongxian who had gone upstairs. Everyone was in awe and reverence. Some of the cultivators who recognized the geniuses immediately became the center of attention. Of course, the geniuses did not recognize them, but this was enough to make them proud. There were also some cultivators who began to get close to the followers of the geniuses in the hall. To the geniuses, they were followers, but to the ordinary cultivators in the hall, these young talents were important figures who were worth befriending. Suddenly, a cultivator shouted loudly, These geniuses are indeed extraordinary, but don't forget that our heaven-forsaken wasteland also has such a peerless figure. The hall fell silent. Chen Renjie, who was walking towards Zhong Diyun, stopped as well. That's right. Who can compare to Su Fang in the current Dongxian divine domain? Dongxuan's top genius, Su Fang is fully deserving of the title. Our heaven-forsaken wasteland's genius Su Fang is a peerless figure who has severely injured the foreign race experts and defeated the foreign race's army, saving Dongxian. How can others compare to him? The cultivators in the hall all looked proud, as if they shared the honor. A bunch of ignorant frogs in the well, how can you know the prowess of Dongxuan's top geniuses? Chen Renjie sneered disdainfully, his voice suppressing the cultivators' discussion. Those geniuses who went up just now, which one of them isn't a prodigy with astounding talent? The Su Fang you speak of is only a lowly tribe forsaken by heaven-forsaken wasteland. How much can he achieve in the future? How can he be compared to the peerless geniuses of the top forces like Heaven Pavilion and the three supreme mysterious sects? The Su Fang was just lucky and happened to stop the invasion of the foreign tribes. Moreover, this matter is still under investigation and there is no conclusion yet. No one can be sure of the truth of the matter. Yet, you cultivators from the heaven-forsaken desolation region are praising him to the heavens. How laughable! Until now, Su Fang doesn't even dare to show his face. If this young master sees him, I will definitely step on his head and make him kneel and lick this young master's boots. Chen Renjie mocked and ridiculed Su Fang with an arrogant expression. His disdainful gaze was overbearing and domineering. The young elites that remained in the hall also burst into laughter. Each and every one of them was not convinced by Su Fang. The cultivators in the hall were intimidated by the Dongxian geniuses upstairs, so no one dared to refute Chen Renjie. QL11 Chen Renjie became even more arrogant. He came in front of Zhongbuyun and looked down at him with disdain. This young master invited you out to see the world, but you made all kinds of excuses and came here to mingle with these lowly ants. What do you think of this young master as your Taoist companion? It seems like you don't want your father to live anymore. Zhongbuyun's face turned pale and his body trembled. He shouted angrily, Chen Renjie, you are also from the Divine Cultivation clan. How can you hurt people with your words? Besides, I am not your Taoist companion. Don't talk nonsense. Your friend? Chen Renjie's arrogant gaze swept past Su Fang and Hua Tiannu. He revealed a disdainful smile. Then, he said domineeringly, the two of you, I will give you 10 breaths of time to crawl out of the free and unfettered divine pavilion. Otherwise, this young master will destroy your Taoist palaces and throw you out. Su Fang, who had been silent all this time, suddenly said casually, if you crawl out of here now, this seat can forgive your rude offense. Chen Renjie laughed involuntarily. The young elites also roared with laughter. Chen Renjie smiled and said, do you know who this young master is? Su Fang said indifferently, I don't know and I don't want to know the origin of an ant. Arrogant. Chen Renjie sneered and pointed at Su Fang rudely. He shouted, this young master is a disciple of the Qin clan of the Mirror Moon Profound World. Never heard of it. Su Fang was speaking the truth. After coming to the Eastern Profound Divine Domain, other than the Fire Net Profound World, he had been in the heaven-forsaken desolate region. He really didn't know about the Mirror Moon Profound World. Chen Renjie's eyebrows rose like swords. A young elite smiled and said, it's not strange that a lowly ant from the heaven-forsaken desolate region doesn't know about the Mirror Moon Profound World. However, the Chen clan of the Mirror Moon Profound World has produced 2 peerless geniuses who have entered the Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion to cultivate and become Daozu's disciples. Don't tell me you don't know about the Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion? A cultivation divine clan having 2 peerless geniuses enter the Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion was indeed a shocking matter. Even Su Fang was moved. The young elite said proudly, Those two peerless geniuses are the rising stars of the Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion, young Master Dongxian Jing and young Miss Dongxian Rong. Right now, young Master Dongxian Jing is chatting happily with other top geniuses upstairs. This young Master Qin Renjie is the genius of the Qin clan that young Master Dongxian Jing came from. You lowly ant from the heaven-forsaken desolate region dare to be rude to him. You really don't know what death is. Su Fang was shocked and stunned. He didn't expect Qin Renjie to be Dongxian Jing and Dongxian Rong's clansman. When Qin Renjie saw Su Fang's expression, he thought that Su Fang was afraid. He became even more complacent and arrogant. This young master is not someone who bullies others. As long as you obediently kowtow to this young master and admit your guilt, then cripple your own cultivation, this young master will spare your life. Zhong Miaoyan said furiously, Qin Renjie, I don't know this person. How can you vent your anger on him? Qin Renjie's eyes flashed with a cold and ruthless expression, and he said in a ghastly voice, If you dare speak another word, then this young master will immediately make you kill your father, and then strip off your clothes in public. Let's see how you'll continue acting lofty before this young master. Hua Tiannu originally intended to watch the show, yet when he saw Qin Renjie become more and more arrogant and domineering, he couldn't restrain himself any longer and roared thunderously. You arrogant fellow! How dare you act arrogantly and domineeringly in Daola City? Fuck off! Hua Tiannu wasn't an ordinary cultivator, and he was an extremely formidable expert at the intermediate Daolord realm. He was a renowned expert in the second slaughter city of Bloodgorge, and he had an unruly nature. He'd even dared to offend Dongxian Jun on the blood slaughter arena of the second slaughter city, let alone Qin Renjie. He erupted with the imposing aura and will of an intermediate Daolord realm expert, and it smashed fiercely onto Qin Renjie, causing Qin Renjie to be blasted flying. Qin Renjie collided with the wall of the hall, and he directly smashed through the defensive barrier and passed through the wall. A Daolord? The hall instantly fell into deathly silence. The young elites who were incomparably arrogant just a moment ago also felt their hearts tremble. No matter which profound world it was, a Daolord realm cultivator was a true expert, and even these young geniuses with extraordinary identities had no choice but to fear such a Daolord realm cultivator. Even though Qin Renjie seemed to be in a sorry state, he wasn't injured at all. He was a genius after all, and he possessed extraordinary defensive abilities. Coupled with the fact that Hua Tiannu didn't really intend to kill him and had merely punished him slightly. He gazed at Hua Tiannu and gnashed his teeth as he said, No matter who you are, this young master will make living worse than death for you. Even a Daolord is an ant before a disciple of the heavenly pavilion. As soon as he finished speaking, he withdrew a talisman, and it was unknown who he was sending his soul consciousness to. Zhong Buyun hurriedly sent a voice transmission to Hua Tiannu. Lord Hua Tiannu, leave quickly. Qin Renjie has the support of a disciple of the heavenly pavilion. You can't afford to offend him. It's fine. Seeing that Su Fang had no intention of leaving, Hua Tiannu smiled as he spoke to Zhong Kunyan. In less than half an hour, a dignified voice came from the entrance of the hall. Who is it? How dare you offend a subordinate of a heavenly pavilion disciple in Daolorla City? Before the voice had even finished speaking, a dignified middle-aged man stepped into the hall on the first floor of the free and unfettered divine pavilion. This person was a peak Daolord realm cultivator, and his aura was majestic and domineering. It was obvious that he was a powerful figure. It's Fan Wuliang from the Daolorla sect, Envoy Fan. That Qin Renjie is indeed a big shot with an identity. A talisman actually attracted a big shot from the Daolorla sect. That cultivator who attacked Qin Renjie is in big trouble now. From the whispers of the crowd, Su Fang knew the identity of this dignified middle-aged man. He didn't expect him to be the Envoy Fan from the Daolorla sect. Qin Renjie was a little smart. He didn't go upstairs directly to find Dong Xianjing to stand up for him. Instead, he summoned a big shot from the Daolerless sect. "Young Master Chen, are you all right?" Envoy Fan hurriedly asked when he saw Chen Renjie's sorry state. His tone was full of flattery. "I was humiliated in the Daolerless city. You can decide how to deal with it. Dong Xianshang, Dong Xianjun, Gu Tianqi and the others are all upstairs watching," Chen Renjie said coldly. Left Emissary Fan shuddered, and his dignified face turned pale in an instant. "How dare you? Kneel down and admit your crimes." Fanswell was enraged. A thought instantly swept across the sky, turning into a palm print that was 100 feet in size. With shackles and pressure, it pressed down on Su Fang, Hua Tiannu, and Zhong Junyun. The Envoy Fan from the Daolerless sect? Haha, he forced the Daolerless sect's leader to kill Envoy Fan. Now there's Envoy Fan. It seems that I'm fated to meet the Envoy Fan. Su Fang chuckled. His blood-evil celestial body released Slaughter Sword Chi, which turned into a sword formation and swept across. It instantly crushed the palm print into pieces. An astonishing Slaughter Chi filled the entire hall and soared up to the sky. The entire Free Spirit Pavilion was alarmed. Chen Renjie was shocked. He immediately sneered disdainfully, "So you're also an expert. Moreover, you're a powerful expert who has cultivated the blood-evil celestial body. But, so what? In front of me, you're still an ant. Envoy Fan, why aren't you suppressing him?" Envoy Fan began to hesitate. He had already guessed some clues from Su Fang's words. However, he still didn't dare to make a conclusion. At this time, a voice full of surprise came from upstairs. "Su Fang, it's you?" Then, a figure flashed and appeared in front of Su Fang. It was Gu Tianqi. Chapter 2802. Su Fang. Gu Tianqi's words instantly made Su Fang the center of attention in the hall. "Brother Gu Tianqi, I trust you have been well since we last met." Su Fang's face quickly changed and returned to his true appearance. Almost everyone in the heaven-forsaken desolate region knew about Su Fang's appearance. Once they saw his true appearance, the entire hall fell into a brief silence, followed by waves of exclamations. Whoosh, shock, exclamations, and sounds swept across like a tidal wave. The ordinary cultivators in the hall looked at Su Fang with eyes full of respect and incomparable excitement. To be able to gather together with the legendary Su Fang, this kind of experience was enough for these cultivators to show off to others in the future. It could even be called a great opportunity, so how could they not be excited? Su Fang has appeared at the Free and Unfettered Godhead. Quick, go to the Free and Unfettered Godhead immediately. The news spread out from the Free and Unfettered Godhead and quickly spread throughout the Daolerless city. In just a moment, countless cultivators rushed towards the Free and Unfettered Godhead. "Su Fang, it's really Su Fang. This bastard from the Mirror Moon profound world wants to kill me." Left Envoy Fan of the Daolerless Gate trembled as if his soul had been sucked out. His Daoist robe was soaked in sweat. Right Envoy Chu of the Daolerless Gate was personally killed by Su Fang. Left Envoy Han was killed by the Daolerless Gate's sect master under Su Fang's coercion. Left Envoy Fan had just sat on the throne of the Daolerless Gate's left envoy for a few days. This time, he kicked the iron plate known as Su Fang. How could he not be afraid when he thought of his predecessor's end? Zhong Diyun was surprised and happy at the same time. There was finally hope now. With Su Fang here, what could a mere Chen Renjie amount to? However, when she thought of the words, "I'm willing to be Su Fang's concubine," her face turned red with a swoosh. She looked tender and beautiful. QL11 The eyes of those young elites also changed in an instant. They looked at Su Fang with fear in their eyes. Chen Renjie felt like a heavy punch had landed on his heart. He staggered as endless fear surged from the bottom of his heart. However, he quickly regained his composure as he thought about it. He raised his head and revealed his arrogance. "So what if he's Su Fang? I'm a clansman of Dong Xianjing's. What can he do to me? Gu Tianqi, were you the one who spread the news of me destroying the world crossing profound door? Su Fang transmitted his thoughts to Gu Tianqi. Gu Tianqi nodded. That's right. Why did you do that? Aren't you afraid that if you offend Great Elder Zhongsun, it will be difficult for you to stand out in the sect in the future? Also, our relationship don't sacrifices. You once said that cultivators should adhere to their own hearts and seek a clear conscience. Only in this way would they be able to cultivate a supreme Dao heart. Fang's Dao Dao Fang's Dao Dao cultivation Dao, Su's, Dao S started cultivation S's. Besides, I, Gu Tianqi, will rely on myself in the future. Even without the sect's support, I can still rise in Dongxian and make a name for myself in Jiuxuan's human world. Thank you very much. Gu Tianqi's actions made Su Fang feel like he was a hero. You don't have to thank me. You've shed blood for the Eastern Xian divine region. I, Gu Tianqi, will never let you cry again. Besides, I'm only telling you the truth. Su Fang stared at Gu Tianqi. Gu Tianqi, you're qualified to be Su Fang's friend. Gu Tianqi laughed heartily. This reputed one thought that we've been friends for a long time. To think that we're barely qualified. Su Fang, it's not easy to be your friend. Su Fang smiled as well. He then asked, how are the Eastern Xian divine region's higher-ups and experts from other divine regions going to deal with the invasion? Gu Tianqi answered honestly, other than our sect's great elder Changsun and the Eastern Profound Heavenly Pavilion's Supreme Venerable Spring and Autumn, the other forces of Dongxian and the other divine regions' powerhouses have also come to Daoless City. The Western Profound Divine Region has even sent a Dao Saint expert. Destiny Arena has also sent an envoy, and he's currently in Daoless City. Do these experts acknowledge me for stopping the invasion of Dongxian? This was what Su Fang was most concerned about. Those are the top experts of the 9 profound divine realm. They used their supreme divine abilities to reverse time and investigate what happened in the ancient Blue City. It's not difficult for them to do so. You can rest assured that you're now a hero of the Eastern Xian divine region. Even Great Elder Changsun and Exalted Spring and Autumn won't dare to touch you. I see. Su Fang's heart settled, as if a mountain had been lifted from his heart. Experts from various forces are currently pursuing the heaven-traversing Blood King vine that has snuck into heaven-forsaken desolate region. They're also trying to find your whereabouts. You've finally shown yourself. Why don't you come with me to pay them a visit? Gu Tianqi revealed a jealous and envious expression as he continued, TSK, you're now a popular figure in Eastern Xian divine region. I heard that Destiny Arena's experts are even planning to take you in as their personal disciple. Even this seat can't help but be envious of you. Your current reputation is something that even this seat has to look up to. I've shot myself in the foot. Su Fang chuckled. Wait for me to deal with some small matters, then I'll go with you to meet those experts. Then, he looked at Envoy Fan of the Daoless sect. Su Fangda, this one has eyes but failed to see and has rudely offended you. Please punish me. Envoy Fan of the left fell to his knees, looking like he was waiting to be slaughtered by Su Fang. Many cultivators in the hall were shocked by this scene. The Daoless sect was the #1 power in heaven-forsaken desolate region, whereas Envoy Fan of the Daoless sect was a huge figure at the peak of the Daoless sect. At this moment, he was actually terrified by Su Fang to the point of falling to his knees and begging for mercy. This was strength and reputation. A feeling of reverence towards experts swiftly grew and spread in the hearts of all the cultivators. Su Fang said indifferently, those who don't know are innocent. However, you have to give my friends an explanation for making a move against them. Envoy Fan of the left knew that his life had been spared this time, and he immediately heaved a long sigh of relief, as if he'd received amnesty. He stood up, cupped his fists, and bowed to Hua Tiannu and Zhongbyun. I've offended both of you. Please forgive me. I'll definitely compensate both of you later. Su Fang didn't pursue the matter with Envoy Fan, so Hua Tiannu and Zhong Buyun naturally wouldn't make things difficult for him. Su Fang looked at Qin Renjie and asked indifferently, "You said earlier that you want me to kneel and lick your boots? You even want to cripple my Tao Palace and ask me to crawl out of the unfettered divine pavilion?" Gu Tianqi chuckled. "Even I don't dare speak such words to Su Fang, yet you've actually looked down upon Su Fang. You're truly brave. Even I can't help but admire you slightly. Ha. Su Fang's gaze contained a fierce will to slaughter, and it caused Qin Renjie's entire body to go icy cold, as if he'd fallen into a bottomless pit of ice. Moreover, his Tao heart was on the verge of shattering. Before a true expert like Su Fang who'd experienced countless slaughters, a young genius like Qin Renjie was extremely weak, like a flower that had been fostered in a greenhouse. He didn't even have the courage to face Su Fang directly, so how could he go against Su Fang? This young master, Qin Renjie was trembling, and he couldn't even speak clearly. "Su Fang, he's a clansman of mine." Dong Xianzheng's voice sounded out. Then, Dong Xianzheng, Dong Xianjun, Ling Xingchen, and the other geniuses all came from upstairs to the hall. However, the silver-robed youth from Dongxian Heavenly Pavilion remained upstairs. Seeing so many geniuses come all of a sudden, and Dong Xianzheng even spoke up, Qin Renjie's spirits were lifted. This person was also smart. He quickly cupped his fists at Su Fang and said sincerely, "This one failed to recognize Mount Tai earlier and offended the people of Su Fangda. Please forgive me, sir." Su Fang's lips curled into a mocking smirk. "If I were an ordinary cultivator from heaven-forsaken barren region, I would have had my Tao Palace destroyed by now, and my head trampled on and humiliated by you. Now, you want me to let you go with just a few words?" Dong Xianjing said coldly, "Su Fang, don't be unreasonable. It's perfectly justified for your clansmen to destroy me. If it's me, Su Fang, who's unreasonable? Dong Xianjing, is this your way of reasoning? Haha, we'll settle our scores later," Su Fang said with a cold smile. He then looked at Qin Renjie and revealed a lofty and domineering aura. The dignity of the strong cannot be violated. Those who violate it will die. As clanging sounds echoed in the hall, a red light suddenly shot out from Su Fang's eyes. The true incinerating eye. As Su Fang ascended to Tao Lord, he could already use thought attacks, making the true incinerating eye even more powerful. In a flash, the red light arrived in front of Qin Renjie, about to shoot into his Tao Palace and destroy it. How arrogant! With me here, don't even think about hurting him. Dong Xianzheng let out a thunderous roar. With a thought condensed into a water droplet in front of Qin Renjie's head, blocking the needle-like thought that Su Fang had condensed from the true incinerating eye. Poof! The needle-like light pierced through the water droplet and hit Qin Renjie between his eyebrows. The needle-like light, which contained the true will of the Xianyang holy man and Su Fang's powerful will, pierced through Qin Renjie's Tao Palace and burned his soul. He screamed in pain and fell to the ground. "Su Fang, I won't rest until you're dead." His clansman was destroyed in front of Dong Xianjing. He was enraged as new and old hatred surged in his heart. "Won't rest until you're dead? Dong Xianjing, do you have the right to fight me until I'm dead?" Su Fang snorted. Then, his murderous aura suddenly became sharp as he stared at Dong Xianjing and said coldly, "You took my grandfather's soul and I haven't settled this score with you. Now, you dare to be so arrogant in front of me? I, Su Fang, am not a pushover. I'll suppress you today and use you to exchange for my grandfather's soul." Boom! Su Fang took a step forward and the Blood Fury spell body fused with his physical body. Blood armor appeared on his body and there were 2 killing stars on it. They were covered in dense slashes and emitted a murderous aura as they charged towards Dong Xianzheng. "Senior Dong Xianjun, save me!" Dong Xianzheng did not expect Su Fang to be so domineering and attack him in front of everyone. He was scared out of his wits and hurriedly called for help. Chapter 28:03. Su Fang, you were only able to defeat me in the Blood Valley because you borrowed the power of the 6 extreme Tao Saint's celestial body. It wasn't your true strength. Now that you've lost the 6 extreme Tao Saint's celestial body, let's see how you can still be arrogant in front of me. Dong Xianjun snorted at Su Fang. In the Blood Valley, Dong Xianjun was defeated by Su Fang. This was a humiliation that he would never be able to wash away. In his opinion, Su Fang was only able to defeat him because Su Fang had the 6 extreme Tao Saint's celestial body. That was the only reason why he lost. Su Fang had used the 6 extreme Tao Saint's celestial body to destroy the world-crossing profound door of the foreign race. This meant that he had lost his greatest reliance. 5 elements sword body. 5 elements sword chi burst out from Dong Xianjun's body. The 5 elements sword chi of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth merged into one. They grew and multiplied endlessly, unleashing a ferocious attack towards Su Fang. At this moment, he wanted to use this opportunity to defeat Su Fang to wash away the humiliation of defeat and the hatred he had for Su Fang. The terrifying 5 elements sword body exploded with Taoist rhymes and sword will. The surrounding cultivators were only affected by it. Their Taoist hearts were impacted, and they had no choice but to defend themselves. Gu Tianqi raised his eyebrows and reminded Su Fang, "Su Fang, be careful." He was also worried that Su Fang's overall strength would be affected after losing the 6 extreme Tao Saint's celestial body. Moreover, this wasn't the Blood Valley. In the Blood Valley, other than the blood evil celestial body, all other abilities would be suppressed. It would be difficult for Su Fang to defeat Dong Xianjun like he did in the Blood Valley. Moreover, Dong Xianjun was also a famous peerless genius in the Eastern Xian divine domain. He was also listed on the Heavenly Xian ranking. Why would I need the 6 extreme Tao Saint's celestial body to deal with you? Su Fang revealed a domineering smile. The Xian Wang celestial body quickly appeared and a 6-story pagoda shadow surrounded his body. Tut tut tut. Qin Huang, Wu Meng, and the other experts, including the cultivators he saved in the ancient Blue City, a total of close to 3,000 cultivators, all of them channeled their power into the black and yellow celestial body. At this moment, Su Fang's aura rose swiftly, and it instantly surpassed the Daolord realm, and even surpassed ordinary Daolords to arrive at the peak of the Daolord realm. The 6-floored pagoda doors of the pagoda phantom opened, bursting with 6 divine powers that clashed with Dong Xianjun's 5 elemental sword chi. Ka ka ka. Boom. Dong Xianjun's 5 elemental sword chi shattered with a loud boom. His body was also pushed back continuously from the impact, and a stream of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. Su Fang was knocked back 3 steps. His black and yellow Dharma body swayed for a while, but in the end it was safe and sound. The second confrontation between the mysterious yellow celestial body and the 5 elements sword body ended in the mysterious yellow celestial body's complete victory. This scene shocked all the cultivators present. Only now did everyone realize that even without the Xian Wang avatar, Su Fang was still the powerful Su Fang who could kill a peak Daolord with a cultivation base of the lower Daolord realm. Looks like we've underestimated him. Gu Tianqi heaved a sigh of relief. Dong Xianjun's face turned ashen. He'd originally planned to avenge his humiliation, but in the end, this was the result. One could imagine how he felt. Su Fang looked at Dong Xianzheng and shouted, "Where is my grandfather's soul now?" Dong Xianzheng was also shocked by the strength Su Fang had displayed. However, it was impossible for him to submit to Su Fang. He gritted his teeth and laughed maniacally. "You stole my Tao partner in the Pongtsong universe, and the enmity between us is as deep as the ocean. Your grandfather's soul was naturally obliterated by me." Boom! There was an explosion in Su Fang's head, and his eyes instantly turned blood-red. So Su Fang and the Heaven Pavilion genius actually have such a grudge. No wonder Su Fang is so aggressive this time and doesn't seem like he's going to show any mercy. Su Fang is indeed Su Fang. When he was still in a low-level universe, he stole the Tao partner of a Heaven Pavilion genius. Dong Xianzheng was cuckolded by Su Fang, and Su Fang's grandfather's soul was obliterated by Dong Xianzheng. Now, the two of them are in a situation where one of them has to die. Unless one of them dies, it'll be difficult to resolve. Dong Xianzheng's strength isn't much, but he's acting all high and mighty. No wonder he was cuckolded. What Heaven Pavilion genius! He's more like a cuckold. The many cultivators in the hall, as well as the top geniuses of the Eastern Xian divine domain, finally understood why Su Fang was so aggressive and overbearing this time. Everyone was secretly communicating with their divine consciousness, and there were also cultivators from the heaven-forsaken wilderness who were whispering. Someone called Dong Xianzheng a cuckold genius, and everyone agreed. Then, there was a wave of mockery and ridicule. Dong Xianzheng, you killed my grandfather's soul. I'll use your life and the entire Chen clan of the Mirror-Moon mystic world to accompany my grandfather in death. When Su Fang heard that his grandfather's soul had been obliterated, he had completely lost his mind. His blood-fiend body merged with his physical body under the control of his murderous intent, and a terrifying murderous aura erupted as he charged toward Dong Xianzheng. The shocking murderous intent made Dong Xianzheng feel as if he was trapped in an ice cave. His entire body was frozen stiff, and his Tao heart was trembling. For a moment, he actually forgot to run for his life. Dong Xianjun was about to help when Su Fang said in a murderous voice, "Whoever dares to stop me from killing Dong Xianjing will be Su Fang's mortal enemy." Dong Xianjun's heart skipped a beat, and he dismissed the idea of helping. Su Fang's grandfather's soul had been obliterated, and this was an irreconcilable grudge. Although Dong Xianjun and Su Fang were also enemies, it wasn't an irreconcilable grudge. Fights between cultivators, and even battles to the death, were very common in the Eastern Xian divine domain. They usually didn't involve family members. Dong Xianzheng had a grudge against Su Fang, but he had killed Su Fang's family. This was a shameful thing in the first place. QL11 If Dong Xianjun attacked now, it would be the same as making a mortal enemy of Su Fang. Moreover, it wouldn't do him any good. Just as Dong Xianzheng was about to be engulfed by Su Fang's murderous aura, a thought suddenly swept across the sky, turning into a giant dragon formed by intertwining black and white. The giant dragon formed by the thought was vivid and lifelike, and emanated an astonishing aura of the great Tao of Yin and Yang. It let out a low roar, and actually shattered Su Fang's murderous aura. The roar's power didn't diminish, and it swept towards Su Fang, crashing into Su Fang's blood armor. 2 murderous diagrams and 81 slaying scars shone together, releasing a silver-gray murderous aura that collided with the divine power of Yin and Yang, and finally dissipated the attack. Su Fang's blood armor dimmed in an instant, and he was forced to retreat from the impact. His qi and blood surged as he spat out a mouthful of blood. What a powerful expert! Although his cultivation base is only at the upper Daolord realm, his true ability has surpassed the Daolord realm. Su Fang was shocked as he looked over. A silver-robed youth stood in front of Dong Xianjing. He stood there calmly, but it gave Su Fang the feeling of standing at the pinnacle and looking down on the world. The silver-robed youth looked at Su Fang calmly and said, "This seat is Dong Xian Glorious." Dong Xian Glorious? Another powerful figure from the Eastern Profound Pavilion. However, Su Fang had never heard of such a person before. Gu Tianqi transmitted his consciousness over. Su Fang, don't clash with Dong Xian Glorious. This person is even more powerful than me, and is ranked in the top 10 among the Eastern Profound Pavilion's disciples. He is also Dong Xian Daozu's personal disciple. His identity and ability are both impressive. There are less than 10 geniuses in the Eastern Profound Divine Domain who are ranked in the Tianxian ranking, and this person is one of them. a Daolord's personal disciple, ranked in the top 10 of the Heaven Pavilion, and a peerless genius of the Tianxian Rankings Heaven ranking. No wonder Gu Tianqi was so wary. As the top disciple of the three sovereign profound sects, he was only ranked in the Earth ranking on the Tianxian ranking. There was quite a gap between him and Dongxian Glorious. I swear to kill Dongxian Jing today. Who can stop me? Knowing Dongxian Glorious' identity, Su Fang didn't retreat, but his murderous intent grew even stronger. Dongxian Glorious spoke. The dignity of the Heaven Pavilion cannot be violated. Seeing that you have contributed to the Eastern Profound Divine Domain by stopping the invasion of the foreign tribes, this reputed one will not pursue your crime of offending a Heaven Pavilion disciple. Su Fang coldly countered, "What if I insist on killing Dongxian Jing today?" Dongxian Glorious said lightly, "With this reputed one here, you can't touch a single hair of a Heaven Pavilion disciple." Ling Xingchen suddenly spoke up, "Young Master Glorious, Su Fang has always been arrogant and domineering. Not only our sect, but even the Heaven Pavilion has never been in his eyes. He thinks that he has contributed greatly this time. Not to mention you, even our sect's great elder Zhangsun and the Heaven Pavilion's exalted Venerable Chuanqiu are not in his eyes." Gu Tianqi raised an eyebrow. "Ling Xingchen, this is a matter between the Heaven Pavilion disciple and Su Fang. You are trying to sow discord between them. What do you think of this reputed one?" Ling Xingchen smiled awkwardly and didn't say anything else. Dongxian Glorious looked at Su Fang. "If you insist on acting rashly and don't know how to respect me, this reputed one will suppress you no matter how great your contribution is. I will let the world know that in the Eastern Profound Divine Domain, Heaven Pavilion is the heavens and no one can defy it. Those who defy it will die." His tone was calm, but it was full of dominance. Hua Tiannu suddenly spoke up. "Ancient Blue City colluded with the Endless Sun sect and sacrificed countless cultivators and mortals to lure the foreign tribes in. When the foreign tribes' experts entered the heaven-forsaken wasteland, where was the heavens that Lord Dongxian Glorious spoke of?" Dongxian Glorious raised an eyebrow. Gu Tianqi said, "When the heaven-piercing Blood King Ratan appeared, Dongxian Jun, Dongxian Jing, and the other geniuses all fled and disappeared without a trace. Even this reputed one fled in fright. Only Su Fang stood up bravely." Dongxian Jun's face flushed red as he flew into a rage out of humiliation. Hua Tiannu shouted, "In the time of danger, the Heaven Pavilion disciple escaped alone. Now you Heaven Pavilion disciples are spouting nonsense here and bullying Su Fang, who once saved Dongxuan's entire human race. I, Hua Tiannu, am the first to refuse to accept this." Dongxian Glorious shouted domineeringly, "You ant, how dare you look down on Heaven Pavilion?" At this time, another cultivator in the hall shouted loudly, "I refuse to accept the way Heaven Pavilion disciples treat Su Fang. I refuse to accept this. I refuse to accept this. Whoever dares to bully Su Fang will have to step over our dead bodies." Chapter 2804. Heaven-forsaken wasteland was different from other mystical worlds. Due to the harsh environment, bandits were as plentiful as the hairs on a cow, and the cultivators were bloodthirsty, crazy, and arrogant. However, Su Fang had sacrificed himself to save countless cultivators and mortals in ancient Blue City. He had also sacrificed the 6 extreme Tao Saint avatars and risked his life to stop the invasion of the other tribes, saving the entire heaven-forsaken wasteland. These actions had earned the respect of all the cultivators of heaven-forsaken wasteland. In addition, Su Fang came from a low-level universe, making the cultivators of heaven-forsaken wasteland see him as one of their own. Now, Dongxian Huihuang's oppressive actions had incited public anger. In an instant, a tsunami of voices shook the entire city. It was not only voices, but also the will of faith of countless cultivators of heaven-forsaken wasteland. Gathered together, even the peerless experts who had surpassed the Tao master level were frightened. Dong Xian Huihuang's expression changed. Facing the will of so many cultivators, no matter how domineering and powerful he could not suppress the will of so many people. It was only now that he realized how terrifying Su Fang's reputation was among the cultivators of heaven-forsaken wasteland. He had no doubt that Su Fang only needed to raise his arms and shout, and countless cultivators of heaven-forsaken wasteland would swarm over without hesitation and crush him into dust. "Let's go!" Dong Xian Huihuang snorted coldly, and was about to bring Dong Xian Zheng away from the free and unfettered godhead. Su Fang suddenly shouted domineeringly, "Leave Dong Xian Zheng behind before you leave." Dong Xian Huihuang was arrogant, still not taking Su Fang seriously. "If you have the ability, leave him behind from this reputed one's hands." "As you wish." Su Fang's gaze landed on Dong Xian Zheng. The mysterious Tao aura from the life-shrinking art condensed into an invisible thread. Life-pulling karmic thread. Dong Xian Huihuang's strength was not something the current Su Fang could resist. It would be difficult to kill Dong Xian Zheng under his protection. However, Dong Xian Zheng had wiped out Su Fang's grandfather's soul. How could Su Fang let him go so easily? Even if he could not kill him, he would plant the karmic fate shrinking art and use it to control Dong Xian Zheng. To a proud genius like Dong Xian Zheng, having his fate controlled by others was worse than death. Qi. The life-pulling karma thread shot out from between Su Fang's brows, transcending the restraints of time and space as it extended towards Dong Xian Zheng. The heavens will alter is a supreme ability to plant karma and control fate. Dong Xian Huihuang was indeed a peerless genius who was ranked in the Tianqian ranking. He could actually sense the existence of the life-connecting karma thread and fell into a state of intense shock. However, it was one thing to be able to sense it. Even if Dongshuan's prowess was heaven-defying, it could not stop anything. Dong Xian Zheng had some understanding of the heavenly secret life-shrinking art. His gaze changed instantly as fear and despair filled his eyes. At this moment, Qi. An ethereal blade slashed at the life-manipulation karmic thread with the domineering power of fate. This slash was not aimed at the physical body, nor was it aimed at the spiritual world. It was aimed at the ethereal fate that could sever all the shackles of fate. Life-severing blade. Never in his wildest dreams did he expect that someone would use the divine secret life-shortening technique to cut off fate's supreme supernatural power, the life-severing blade, to deal with Su Fang's life-leading karma thread. The illusory blade slashed down and severed the life-pulling karma thread. Su Fang's supernatural power was broken, and he immediately suffered a backlash. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. His aura instantly weakened, and some white hair grew on his temples. The crowd did not understand what had happened. Seeing Su Fang suddenly suffering a heavy blow, they were all baffled. How would they know that the confrontation earlier was much more thrilling than the collision of thoughts, supernatural powers, and Xian Bao? Su Fang stared at the door and shouted in a low voice, "Dong Xian Rong, come out!" A woman in green slowly walked into the hall from outside the door. This woman's appearance was identical to Dong Xian Zheng's, but she looked rather easygoing and calm. Dong Xian Rong. This woman was Dong Xian Zheng's elder sister, Dong Xian Rong. Only she had mastered the divine secret life-shrinking art and used the life-severing blade to break Su Fang's life-pulling karma thread. However, she also paid a hefty price for this. The black hair on her temples had turned white and her appearance had turned into that of a woman in her 30s. Such a price far exceeded Su Fang's. After all, Su Fang had the celestial Yang Dharma body and the sky-piercing blood king vine seed that could restore life. He could quickly replenish the depleted vitality. QL11 however, Dong Xian Rong was different. Once her lifespan was depleted, it was very difficult to restore it unless it was some extremely rare medicinal pill that could restore lifespan. Dong Xian Rong forced a smile. "Su Fang, we meet again." Su Fang was filled with murderous intent. This meeting will be the death of you siblings. Back then, it was Dong Xianrong who had captured Su Fang's grandfather's soul. Now that his soul had been wiped out by Dong Xianjing, Dong Xianrong could not escape the blame. Naturally, Su Fang listed her as a must-kill target. Su Fang Dong Xianrong was about to speak. Dong Xianrong's voice that was filled with murderous intent rang out, "Su Fang, you are so arrogant and despotic. Do you really think that this reputed one dares not attack you?" As soon as his voice fell, a thought turned into a huge black and white dragon, roaring and pouncing towards Su Fang. It opened its mouth wide and exploded with the power of yin and yang, wanting to suppress Su Fang. Suddenly, from the depths of the void, a palm that was filled with the strong smell of alcohol lightly tapped the huge dragon. Poof! The huge dragon formed by Dong Xianrong's thought and the erupting power of yin and yang shattered instantly and turned into nothingness. Then, a silhouette walked out of the void. It was not the real person, but a shadow formed by his thought. It was a young man in his early 20s. He was quite handsome, but his long hair was scattered and the shadow formed by his thought was actually exuding a strong smell of alcohol. Once the shadow appeared, the entire hall was filled with the smell of alcohol, suppressing all auras and making people feel dizzy and lightheaded. "You are," Su Fang was shocked and bewildered. He never would have thought that there would be such a person helping him. Moreover, this person was so strange and powerful. Although Su Fang could not judge his strength, he could guess that this person was much stronger than Great Elder Zhongsun and the Supreme Elders Spring and Autumn. Dong Xianrong's brows furrowed, a helpless and respectful expression showing in his eyes. He cupped his fists and bowed towards the shadow. "Dong Xianrong greets Senior Wine Saint." Wine Saint? Was it an honorific title or a name? However, the name was very appropriate. Even his thought was filled with the smell of alcohol. Being called the Wine Saint was indeed worthy of his name. Gu Tianqi, Dong Xianjun, and the other top geniuses of Dongxian obviously knew this person's identity and greeted him one after another. The Wine Saint did not pay attention to the geniuses, his gaze scrutinizing Su Fang carefully. Su Fang felt like he had been seen through from the inside out, his hair standing on end. The Wine Saint chuckled and looked at Dong Xianrong. "This saint is drinking to my heart's content, but you little bastard are bullying me here. This saint is so angry that I've lost all interest in drinking. Tell me, how are you going to compensate me?" The Wine Saint's words were rude and domineering, like a drunkard who was unreasonable. Dong Xianrong dared not retort, forcing himself to say, "I wonder how Senior Wine Saint wants this junior to compensate?" The Wine Saint's shadow scratched his head and chuckled. "You're quite straightforward. I'll forgive you this time. Compensate this saint with a pot of rainbow blood lotus brew." Dong Xianrong was shocked and said with a bitter smile, "The rainbow blood lotus brew that Senior is talking about is made with the rainbow blood lotus's root as the main ingredient and more than 100 spiritual items. It is a supreme brew brewed with a secret method. Other spiritual items aside, the rainbow blood lotus can only be found in the profound nether divine domain where the other tribes reside. Where can this junior find such a peerless spiritual item?" The Wine Saint's shadow said rudely, "What? Are you trying to renege on your debt?" "Senior, this junior is Dong Xiandaozu's direct disciple." Dong Xianrong had no choice but to bring up Dong Xiandaozu. "This saint is not a Dongxian cultivator. Your Heaven Pavilion's signboard can't scare this saint. Trying to renege on my debt?" The Wine Saint snorted coldly, a strong scent of alcohol immediately enveloping Dong Xianrong. The scent of alcohol contained a shocking Tao. Dong Xianrong's face flushed red, his eyes glazed over, his breath filled with the pungent scent of alcohol. He swayed as he stood there, as if he was drunk. "Wine Saint, don't you go too far." The Supreme Elder of Spring and Autumn tore through the air angrily, releasing a strand of thought to help Dong Xianrong dispel the scent of alcohol. Dongxian Rong finally sobered up, but he looked like a mortal with a hangover. His breath was weak, obviously having suffered a great loss. The Supreme Elder of Spring and Autumn said angrily, "Wine Saint, this reputed one respects you because you are a guest from Xixian. You are a divine saint expert, but today you attacked a Heaven Pavilion disciple for no reason. What is the meaning of this?" The Wine Saint was actually from Xixian Divine Domain. Su Fang was struck by a sudden realization. The Wine Saint had come all the way from Xixian Divine Domain. He had most likely received Xixian Daozu's order to help Su Fang resolve the huge crisis caused by the spider's exposure. Then he must be one of them. No wonder he had suddenly helped and caused Dongxian Rong to suffer a great loss. The Wine Saint smiled and said, "This saint is drunk and is just joking with a junior. What? Can't you even take a joke?" The Supreme Elder of Spring and Autumn felt a headache coming, but he could do nothing about the Wine Saint. The Wine Saint looked at Su Fang and said with a smile, "I think you are a good kid. Since Dongxian can't tolerate you, why don't you come to Xixian with this saint?" Su Fang is a Dongxian cultivator. He has done a great service for Dongxian this time, and Heaven Pavilion wants to put him in an important position. How can we let him go to Xixian Divine Domain? Without waiting for Su Fang to speak, the Supreme Elder of Spring and Autumn quickly stopped him. His purpose of keeping Su Fang was naturally because he was unwilling to give up on the spider. As long as Su Fang was still in Xixian Divine Domain, he might still have a chance to get the spider. If Su Fang was really taken away by the Wine Saint, then all hope would be lost. In his opinion, the reason why the Wine Saint had helped Su Fang was naturally not because he was drunk. If a Tao Saint expert was really drunk, wouldn't it be the biggest joke in the world? He thought that the Wine Saint's goal was also to get Su Fang's spider. Of course, he would not let Su Fang leave. Chapter 28:05. The Wine Saint was trying to recruit Su Fang in front of everyone, and the exalted Venerable Spring Autumn couldn't do anything about it. The Wine Saint was much stronger than him, so what could he do? Who knew Su Fang refused decisively. "I am very grateful for my lord's good intentions. I will go to West Profound one day, but for now, I still have many things to do in the Eastern Profound Divine Domain, so I can't go with you." If he went to the Western Profound Divine Domain now, he would be able to settle everything once and for all. He wouldn't have to worry about being oppressed by supreme forces like the Heaven Pavilion and the three highest profound sects. Moreover, Su Fang was the disciple of the West Profound Daozu. His status in West Profound would be incomparably noble, and he could get whatever he wanted in the future. However, this would be detrimental to Su Fang's cultivation. A cultivator should defy the heavens and surpass the peak again and again. In a peaceful environment, one's achievements would be limited. Moreover, the danger brought by the luck spider had been resolved, so the Heaven Pavilion and the three highest profound sects wouldn't dare to openly snatch the luck spider. If Su Fang went to the Western Profound Divine Domain with the Wine Saint, the West Profound Daozu would definitely look down on Su Fang even if he didn't stop him. This was an outcome that Su Fang definitely didn't want to see. Su Fang's decision made the exalted Venerable Spring Autumn sigh in relief. The Wine Saint was not surprised at all. He chuckled mischievously as he secretly transmitted a thought to Su Fang with his primordial spirit. "Little junior brother, you are indeed not bad. No wonder Master is full of praises for you. Work hard in the Eastern Profound Divine Domain. Don't disgrace Master." Little junior brother? Su Fang's guess was right. The Wine Saint was sent by the West Profound Daozu to help him in the Eastern Profound Divine Domain. After all, it involved various forces, and the West Profound Daozu wouldn't do it personally, so he sent his disciple to help Su Fang secretly. From this, it could be seen that the West Profound Daozu valued Su Fang very much. The West Profound Daozu probably didn't expect that the huge danger Su Fang faced would be easily resolved by Gu Tianqi. Yes, Senior Brother Wine Saint. Su Fang replied, feeling overjoyed. The Wine Saint's little shitty also meant that Shi Xian Daozu acknowledged Su Fang and thought of him as his direct disciple. How could Su Fang, who understood this, not be happy? However, when he thought about how his grandfather's soul had been killed by Dong Xianjing, Su Fang's mood became heavy once again. His gaze towards Dong Xianjing and Dong Xianrong suddenly became sharp and cold. With exalted venerable spring and autumn around, they naturally wouldn't be able to kill the siblings. However, the two of them were Su Fang's mortal enemies from then on. With Su Fang's various powerful abilities, it would not be difficult to kill them. Hiss! A thought broke through the air and turned into a middle-aged man in a white robe. Once this figure appeared, even Wine Saint's expression turned solemn. Exalted Elder Spring-Autumn, Dong Xian Hui Huang, and the others cupped their fists in greeting. This person's identity was obvious. He was the messenger from the mysterious Destiny platform. The white-robed middle-aged man's disdainful gaze swept across the crowd and finally landed on Su Fang. He said majestically, "You are Su Fang? Come to the residence of Daolis City's city lord quickly. This reputed one wants to see you. Lord Wine Saint, exalted Elder Spring-Autumn, come as well." With a flash of divine light, the silhouette formed by the thought disappeared without a trace. The Saint of Wine reminded Su Fang, "Junior brother, they are going to reward you based on your contribution. Don't get your hopes up too high. Dongxuan's forces, including the Destiny platform, aren't anything good. They are all eyeing you with their eyes wide open. However, with your senior brother here, the Destiny platform won't be able to do anything to you." Su Fang's heart skipped a beat as he became alert. If it weren't for Senior Brother Wine Saint's reminder, I would have almost forgotten about the Destiny platform. Other than Senior Brother Wine Saint, the Destiny platform and the other forces didn't come to Dongxian just to investigate the invasion of the other tribes. They are most likely here for my Destiny platform. The Eastern Profound Heavenly Pavilion and the three highest mysterious sects are not the only ones who want to snatch my luck spider. Treasuring a jade ring becomes a crime, strength. Before these exceptional experts, my strength is still too weak. Compared to my strength, the luck spider is too alluring. Su Fang became alert. At the same time, he felt immense pressure. Exalted Elder Spring-Autumn said majestically, "Let's go. Don't let the lords from the Destiny platform wait too long." Su Fang glanced at Dong Xianjing and Dong Xianrong deeply. Dong Xianjing shuddered. He knew that Su Fang had formed a death grudge with him. What awaited him next was Su Fang's crazy revenge. Thinking of Su Fang's strength and ruthless methods, Dong Xianjing could not help but shudder. Su Fang. He did not expect Dong Xianrong to send a telepathic message to Su Fang. Su Fang replied coldly, "Dong Xianrong, things have come to this point. It's already a situation where only one of us will die. There's no point in saying more." Dong Xianrong continued to send a telepathic message, "Su Fang, listen to me first. Your grandfather's soul is safe and sound now. What Dong Xianjing said earlier was just to provoke you." Is that true?" Su Fang raised his eyebrows and looked at Dong Xianrong. His eyes shone with a sharp light. "When I captured your grandfather's soul from Pongtsang Universe, I didn't plan to use it to threaten you. How could I erase your grandfather's soul?" Dong Xianrong's words made the killing intent in Su Fang's heart vanish. If his grandfather's soul was really erased, it would be useless even if he killed Dong Xianzheng and Dong Xianrong, or even annihilated their entire family. Now that his grandfather's soul was safe and sound, Su Fang was naturally pleasantly surprised. Su Fang asked, "Where is my grandfather's soul now?" "Don't worry. I've made proper arrangements for your grandfather's soul after I left Pongtsang Universe and returned to Dongxian. It's 100 times better than what you can imagine. Let go of my grandfather's soul, and I can let bygones be bygones. Sure. But you have to promise me one thing. Su Fang raised his eyebrows. What is it? You and Dong Xianjing will have a fair duel within 1,000,000 years. No matter who wins or loses, I will give your grandfather's soul to you intact. It's a deal. Su Fang agreed without hesitation. Not to mention Dong Xianjing, even if it was a duel with Dong Xian Hui Huang, Su Fang would agree without hesitation. Besides, why would Su Fang care about Dong Xianjing now? What puzzled Su Fang was that Dong Xianrong knew that it was impossible for Dong Xianjing to defeat Su Fang, so why did she still propose such a condition? However, Su Fang was not afraid of Dong Xianrong's schemes. In the face of powerful strength, all schemes were useless. Dong Xianrong, I agree to your condition, but there is something I have to say first. 1,000,000 years later, if my grandfather's soul is damaged in the slightest, not only you and Dong Xianjing, I will wipe out the entire Qin clan of the Mirror Moon mystical world. Su Fang said coldly and then left the hall with Wine Saint and Exalted Spring and Autumn, heading straight for the residence of the Taoist city's city lord. Dong Xianrong glanced at Dong Xianjing and sighed inwardly. She said, "Little brother, let's go." Dong Xianjing transmitted his thoughts with his soul. "Sister, what did you say to Su Fang just now?" Dong Xianrong replied, "I'll help you arrange a duel with Su Fang. 1,000,000 years later, you'll have an open duel with him." Dong Xianjing was shocked and stunned. "Ah, sister, why are you doing this? I've told you long ago that some people are destined to rise against the heavens. Whoever stands in their way will be crushed into dust. This Su Fang belongs to this kind of person. However, you didn't listen and tried to provoke him again and again. In terms of talent, you have the supreme mystical constitution and are not inferior to Su Fang. In terms of background and the various cultivation resources you enjoy now, Su Fang can't compare to you. Therefore, I've created an opportunity for you. In the duel 1,000,000 years later, if you can defeat Su Fang, you can step on his head and become famous in Dongxian. From then on, you'll rise to the top. If you are defeated by him, you must completely dispel the thought of becoming his enemy. In the future, whenever you see him, you must take a detour so as to avoid dying miserably at his hands and bringing a calamity to your clan." Dong Xianrong's soul was filled with extreme sternness. 1,000,000 years later, I, Dong Xianjing, will step on Su Fang's head to wash away the shame and become famous in Dongxian. Dong Xianjing's eyes were filled with determination. When the geniuses of the Eastern Xian divine domain left, the hall and outside the carefree divine pavilion were filled with exclamations and exclamations. Hua Tianyu stared at Zhong Daiyun and chuckled. "Miss Zhong, does what you said before still count?" Zhong Daiyun's face flushed red as she nodded and said, "Why not? It's a pity that even if I want to become Su Fang's concubine, he might not agree." Hua Tianyu smiled embarrassedly. "Let's go and save your father quickly." Dallas City's City Lord Manor. In a dazzling palace, Supreme Elder Spring Autumn, Great Elder Changsun, experts from various forces of the Eastern Xian divine domain, Wine Saint from Western Xian and experts from other divine domains were gathered. Although Supreme Elder Spring Autumn's strength was not the highest, he represented the Eastern Xian divine pavilion, so he sat in the most central seat. On the two thrones, Wine Saint sat on the right and a middle-aged man in white robes sat on the left. This person had fair skin and an elegant temperament. His aura was empty, and he looked like a scholar who could not even truss a chicken. However, everyone, including Supreme Elder Spring Autumn, looked at him with respect. That was because this person came from the most mysterious and terrifying human force in the Jiuxuan divine domain. Heaven's Fate platform. In front of everyone, Su Fang slowly narrated what had happened in the ancient Blue City. Su Fang did not even hide the matter of the mobile spider. After all, it was impossible to hide it even if he wanted to. However, Su Fang did not mention anything about the abilities that were not shown in the jade slips circulating outside. He was not a fool, so why would he reveal his true strength? Then, he called Gu Tianqi over. QL11 in front of everyone, Gu Tianqi condensed a picture of what had happened that day and reproduced the entire process clearly. Chapter 2806. Gu Tianqi's honest account of the incident infuriated Great Elder Changsun of the Three Profound Sects, but he could not flare up in front of everyone. Exalted Venerable One Spring-Autumn waved at Gu Tianqi. Gu Tianqi, you may leave. After Gu Tianqi left, Exalted Venerable One Spring-Autumn said in a majestic voice, "This reputed one thinks that this matter can be concluded. Su Fang has indeed succeeded in stopping the invasion of the other races." Exalted Venerable One Spring-Autumn had no choice. Su Fang's contribution was there for all to see. The other experts nodded in agreement. Exalted Venerable One Spring-Autumn looked at Su Fang. "Su Fang, what reward would you like for your great contribution to Dongxian?" Wine Saint and other experts from other divine realms frowned deeply. Su Fang had made such a great contribution that Dongxian Heavenly Pavilion could reward him with any reward. Exalted Venerable One Spring-Autumn asked what reward Su Fang wanted. In front of so many experts, how could Su Fang, a mere Tao Lord cultivator, dare to speak? Exalted Venerable One Spring-Autumn was obviously planning to give Su Fang some benefits and then send Su Fang away. Little did he know, Su Fang said honestly, "I don't dare to ask for too much of a reward. In order to destroy the world-crossing mystic gate of the foreign races, I burned my 6 extreme Tao Saint avatars. Why don't I ask Heaven Pavilion to compensate me and reward me with a Tao Saint avatar?" Tao Saint avatar? Everyone was stunned. Tao Saint experts were not cabbages that could be found anywhere. How many Tao Saints were there in Dongxian Divine Realm, where experts were as common as clouds? Although Heaven Pavilion ruled Dongxian Divine Realm, it was not that they did not have treasures similar to Tao Saint avatars, but it was impossible for Heaven Pavilion to take out such a shocking treasure. However, Su Fang had lost his 6 extreme Tao Saint avatar to stop the other race's invasion. Heaven Pavilion compensating him for his loss did not seem to be an unreasonable request, but a reasonable one. Exalted Venerable One Spring-Autumn coughed dryly and said solemnly, "Su Fang has made a great contribution in stopping the other race's invasion of the human world. Heaven Pavilion will naturally reward him handsomely. As for the reward, I will report it to Heaven Pavilion's upper echelons. After the upper echelons have a discussion, we will decide the reward." "Thank you, my lord." Su Fang cupped his fists and thanked him. He sneered in his heart. How could he not see that Exalted Venerable Spring and Autumn had given him a blank check? With Su Fang's personality, he naturally wouldn't lose the 6 extreme Tao Sage celestial body for nothing. Su Fang cupped his fists and bowed to the Supreme Elder and Supreme Elder. "Then," he said sincerely, "I have a favor to ask of the two of you." "What is it?" "In the past, I have offended the disciples of the Heaven Pavilion and the 3 supreme mysterious sects. I hope that the two of you can give me a way out in the future on account of my contributions." High Holiness Spring-Autumn and Grand Elder were stunned. Soon after, they realized Su Fang's intention. Both of them were furious. Su Fang was clearly trying to take advantage of the situation and force them to make a public promise that they would not take revenge on Su Fang in the future. They had just confirmed that Su Fang had made a great contribution. If they didn't agree in front of everyone, it would be inexcusable. At this moment, the wine sage chuckled and said, "Just now, you said that you would give Su Fang a big reward. Could it be that you want to kill him now?" The exalted sage of Spring and Autumn raised his eyebrows and nodded. "I can guarantee that the Heaven Pavilion will not intervene in the dispute between you and the disciples of the Heaven Pavilion. I can also guarantee that the elders of the Heaven Pavilion will not interfere in the fight between you juniors. Although the disciples of the Heaven Pavilion had a conflict with Su Fang, it wasn't an irreconcilable feud. Thus, High Holiness Spring-Autumn would naturally agree so easily. The only thing that made High Holiness Spring-Autumn's heart ache was that Su Fang had plundered all kinds of treasures that had been accumulated for millions of years in the second star-killer city of the Blood Valley. Even the city lord was killed by Su Fang. There was no way to settle this score with Su Fang. However, Great Elder Zhongsun was still hesitating. Su Fang had killed so many experts of the three highest profound sects. Even his grandson had died because of Su Fang. How could he let Su Fang off so easily? The wine sage sneered. I recently heard that the experts of the three highest profound sects have hunted down Su Fang many times. Even Great Elder Zhongsun had personally taken action. A dignified Great Elder of the three highest profound sects actually hunted down a mere Tao Lord cultivator. A sect second only to the Heaven Pavilion in the Eastern Profound Divine region is really daring. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. All the experts in the palace looked at Great Elder Zhongsun. Great Elder Zhongsun had no choice but to grit his teeth and say, I promise you that the three highest profound sects will let bygones be bygones. Su Fang was still worried. Although Great Elder Zhongsun's grandson Zhongsun Yaoyang was killed by the will of the Blood Valley, it was because of me. Great Elder is a magnanimous person. I'm sure you won't make things difficult for me because of this, right? Great Elder Zhongsun blew out a breath of air, causing his beard to dance wildly. He said angrily, My grandson was killed by you for nothing. Are you satisfied now? Su Fang repeatedly expressed his thanks. Many thanks to Great Elder Zhongsun for being so broad-minded. This humble one admires you. However, Great Elder is Dongshuan's peerless expert. Your words carry weight and you won't go back on your word. Am I right, Great Elder Zhongsun? Great Elder Zhongsun was so angry that he was about to spit out blood, but he couldn't do anything. He simply closed his eyes on the throne for fear that he would lose control and kill Su Fang. Exalted Lord Spring and Autumn quickly changed the topic. There's one more important matter. The sky-piercing Blood King Vine has yet to be captured. The whereabouts of ancient Blue City's cultivator, Pan Tsang, who colluded with the other races, are unknown as well. The remaining members of Endless Sun sect, who are controlled by the evil god's descent, have yet to be completely wiped out. Heaven Pavilion will post a wanted list in the entire Dongxian. The experts from Dongshuan's various forces nodded in agreement. Then, the experts discussed the next step of the other races after their failed invasion of Dongxian. The situation was obviously not so optimistic. If the other races could invade from Dongshuan's heaven-forsaken wasteland, they could also attack from anywhere else. After this failure, they would definitely not let the matter rest. They were lucky this time to be stopped by Su Fang, but they would not be so lucky next time. The discussion went on for a long time. They could not come up with any good ideas. They could only ask the major forces to be more vigilant and work together to deal with the invasion of the other races. It was about to come to an end. The middle-aged man in white robes, who had been sitting on the throne without speaking, suddenly looked at Su Fang and said, Since you've cultivated the art of life contraction, you can be considered an outer disciple of the Destiny Altar. You've done a great service for the human race this time. Even the Destiny Altar has been alerted. They intend to bring you into the Destiny Altar to cultivate and become its direct disciple. Are you willing? In that instant, the entire palace was silent. The Destiny Altar was mysterious and unpredictable. It could be said that it was the most powerful force of the human race in the Zhoushuan God realm. The powerhouses in the palace were all peak powerhouses of their respective divine realms. However, not a single one of them knew the exact location of the Destiny Arena. They only knew that it was located in the Middle Mystic region. It was clear just how mysterious the Destiny Arena was. In the history of the human race, there had been countless battles with the other races. Each time, the Destiny Altars experts were present and played a role like a stabilizing force. Therefore, the Destiny Altar was faintly regarded as the leader of the human race. Now, the Destiny Altar's envoy had actually opened his mouth to recruit Su Fang, asking Su Fang to join the Destiny Altar. What kind of opportunity was this? Once Su Fang entered the Destiny Altar, it was imaginable what kind of amazing achievements he would have in the future. Supreme Elder Chuanqiu, Great Elder Changsun, and the other Dongxian experts looked at Su Fang in a different light. No matter how great Su Fang's contribution was, it was all in the past to these experts. Su Fang's entry into the Destiny Altar meant that Su Fang's identity was completely different from before. It was enough to make them pay attention and be wary of him. Su Fang cupped his fists and said, "Thank you, sir. However, this one already has a master. It is not suitable for me to join the Destiny Altar. Please forgive me, sir." Everyone in the palace turned to look, disbelief in their eyes. The middle-aged man in white smiled and said, "Who is your master? Let this reputed one talk to him, and ask you to withdraw from his tutelage." The wine saint suddenly laughed loudly, as if he had heard the funniest thing in the Jiuquan god realm. The strong smell of alcohol filled the palace along with his laughter, making the experts drunk. The middle-aged man in white actually planned to talk to the Shi Xian Daozu and ask Su Fang to withdraw from Daozu's tutelage. Of course, it was not as simple as just words. There was definitely a lot of coercion and temptation involved. The Destiny Altar was indeed mysterious and powerful, but that was relative to the entire force. Only a few pinnacle existences were qualified to be on the same level as the Shi Xian Daozu. This white-robed envoy was extraordinary as well, but he was only a slightly larger ant in front of the Shi Xian Daozu. What was this if not a joke? The wine saint's unbridled laughter made the white-robed envoy's eyes flash with displeasure. He asked faintly, "Lord Wine Saint, do you think this reputed one's words are funny?" The wine saint stroked his messy beard and nodded. "Funny, very funny. Su Fang's master is someone that even this saint has to kneel to when I see him, but you want to snatch his disciple. Isn't this funny?" The white-robed envoy's aura changed instantly. The other experts in the palace also sucked in a breath of cold air. Their eyes were filled with surprise and shock when they looked at Su Fang. The wine saint did not look like he was talking nonsense because he was drunk. He also did not dare to talk nonsense about such a supreme existence. His words were most likely true. What kind of terrifying existence was it that made the wine saint, a Tao saint expert, kneel to him? The wine saint chuckled. His gaze swept across the crowd and finally looked at the white-robed envoy. "Everyone, don't blame this saint for not reminding you earlier. Don't make wild guesses and don't spread rumors. Otherwise, if you anger that person, you will be responsible for your own fortune and misfortune." Everyone's heart shuddered. Supreme Elder Spring Autumn and First Elder Zhangsun completely dispelled the thought of taking revenge on Su Fang. However, they still had some fantasies about Su Fang's wushu. The white-robed envoy from the Destiny Altar was silent for a moment. He stared at Su Fang and said, "Since you have already become a disciple of another expert, then this reputed one will not force you hand over the wushu." Chapter 2807. Now was not the time to back down. Su Fang did not budge. He said in a neither servile nor overbearing tone, "The luck spider is my life-saving treasure. It is inconvenient for me to show it to others. Please forgive me." The white-robed middle-aged man did not expect Su Fang to reject him so decisively. He was stunned. Then, he smiled faintly. "Your luck spider is the offspring of the Destiny Platform's luck spider. Naturally, it belongs to the Destiny Platform. The offspring of the Destiny Platform's luck spider." Su Fang laughed involuntarily. He did not expect such an expert to lie in order to obtain the luck spider. Su Fang asked, "Sir, do you know where I obtained my luck spider?" Where did the adult spider on the Heaven's Mandate stage reproduce? The white-robed middle-aged man was speechless. He snorted. This is a secret of the Destiny platform. How can I tell others so casually? Su Fang said, My luck spider was obtained from the Blood Valley's swamp. The Blood Valley was refined from the corpse of a powerful foreign race killed by Dongxian Daozu. Therefore, the luck spider is from a foreign race. Sir, you must be mistaken. My luck spider has nothing to do with the luck spider in the Destiny platform. Only then did the crowd know the origin of the luck spider. Some experts regretted it, especially exalted Venerable Spring Autumn. If he had known that there was a luck spider in the Blood Valley, he would have sent the disciples of the Heaven Pavilion to search the entire Blood Valley to get it. How could it have fallen into Su Fang's hands? The white-robed middle-aged man smiled embarrassedly. It seems that I have made a mistake. However, the luck spider is an extremely ominous creature. Only the Destiny platform can control it. I asked you to hand over the luck spider for your own good. Thank you for your kindness, sir. Since I was able to capture the luck spider, I naturally have the ability to control it. The luck spider suppressed by the Destiny platform caused great chaos in Jiuxuan's divine realm. It even devoured the fortune of a powerful foreign race, causing its destruction. How can a little cultivator like you control it? If you lose control, not only will you be unable to protect yourself, but you will also bring a great disaster to Jiuxuan. When that time comes, even 100 deaths won't be enough to atone for your sins. The middle-aged man in a white robe said with a heavy tone. A terrifying pressure of will enveloped Su Fang. A strong and pungent smell of alcohol swept out, dispelling the white-robed middle-aged man's oppressive will. It turned out that the wine saint had acted in time and helped Su Fang resolve the crisis. The wine saint took out a wine gourd and drank a big mouthful of wine. Then, his mouth was filled with the smell of alcohol. Let's talk nicely. This saint can't stand seeing the strong bullying the weak the most. As long as I see this kind of thing, I can't help but become drunk. Once this saint becomes drunk and crazy, I can't control myself. Once I lose control, I won't even be able to recognize my own parents. Su Fang's incoherent words caused the white-robed middle-aged man to frown deeply. He was quite fearful in his heart and didn't dare to continue threatening Su Fang. Su Fang, you stepped forward bravely and didn't hesitate to sacrifice a Tao Saint's Dharma body to stop the invasion of the foreign races. You are also a person with a deep sense of righteousness. You should know how important the wolf spider is to the entire human race. For the sake of the human race, you should also hand over the wolf spider. The white-robed middle-aged man began to preach to Su Fang. His words were sincere and earnest. Su Fang was neither servile nor overbearing. My lord, I, Su Fang, am also a human. When the human race is in danger, I, Su Fang, will also step forward bravely. The wolf spider can also play a role for the human race in my hand. Su Fang's stubbornness finally angered the white-robed cultivator. The scholarly aura instantly turned into a lofty and imposing aura. Su Fang, no matter what, the wolf spider must be in the hands of the Destiny stage. Do you dare to go against the supreme will of the Destiny stage? Supreme Elder Spring Autumn and Great Elder Zhangsun both looked like they were gloating. Their chances of obtaining the wolf spider were very slim, and Su Fang had completely offended them. Seeing that Su Fang's wolf spider was about to be lost, they were naturally filled with joy. The other experts from Dongxian and other divine realms were indignant on Su Fang's behalf. Su Fang had just done a great service for the human race, and now the Destiny stage wanted to snatch away his wolf spider. The way the Destiny stage handled things was truly tyrannical. However, when it came to the Destiny stage, no one would speak up for Su Fang. At this moment, the wine saint said sarcastically, Hong Daoyuan, is it the Destiny stage that wants the wolf spider, or do you, Hong Daoyuan, want the wolf spider for yourself? Seeing that the white-robed middle-aged man had begun to threaten Su Fang again, The wine saint's tone was very impolite. With his strength, he didn't need to be polite even when facing an emissary from the Destiny stage. The white-robed middle-aged man named Hong Daoyuan said coldly, "Wine Saint, I am now the emissary of the Destiny stage. What's the difference between me and the Destiny stage?" The wine saint took another swig of wine and said mockingly, "The Destiny stage sent you to Dongxuan's heaven-abandoned wasteland to investigate the invasion of the other races. They didn't ask you to snatch the wolf spider of a meritorious person who has done a great service for the human race. If I have the chance to meet the higher-ups of the Destiny stage, I would like to ask when the Destiny stage, which has always been aloof from worldly affairs, has begun to snatch the treasures of cultivators as they wish?" Ethereal flames began to burn in Hong Daoyuan's eyes. He was obviously furious and wanted to get the wolf spider even if he had to shed all pretense of cordiality. The wine saint looked at Hong Daoyuan coldly, the smell of wine in his mouth filling the air. He sneered and said, "Hong Daoyuan, forget about the fact that you can't snatch away Su Fang's wolf spider. Even if you have the ability, you should know very well that it's Destiny who can obtain such an ominous item like the wolf spider. You want to snatch Su Fang's fortune, aren't you afraid of a calamity? You've mastered the great Tao of Destiny. Don't tell me you can't even see this? Don't let your Tao heart be blinded by greed. You'll lose your life for nothing." Hong Daoyuan felt like he had been hit in the head. The momentum he had been building up vanished instantly. It was not that Hong Daoyuan did not understand what the wine saint was saying. It was just that his Tao heart was disrupted by the temptation of a heaven-defying treasure like the wolf spider. However, it was impossible for him to completely dismiss the idea. The hall fell into silence. Suddenly, Hong Daoyuan raised his eyebrows and grabbed a rune talisman. After deciphering the message in the rune, Hong Daoyuan's gaze changed instantly. His face turned pale as he shuddered uncontrollably. Then BZZT, BZZT, BZZT. The wine saint, Supreme Elder Spring and Autumn, Great Elder Changsun, as well as the experts of Dongxian and the other god realms, stirred from their bodies almost at the same time as they took out their rune talismans. Like Hong Daoyuan, all the experts who received the message were shocked and surprised. Su Fang felt like the end of the world had arrived. Su Fang hurriedly transmitted his consciousness to the wine saint and asked, "Senior brother, what has happened?" The wine saint's previous wild and unrestrained manner was gone. His voice was solemn. "The other races have invaded the Yao race en masse. They have broken through the Yao race's world. A large number of Yao experts have entered the human race's southern mystic divine realm. There were many Yao races in the Jiuxuan divine realm, but they were a minority. The Yao race had also opened up many Yao worlds in the chaos. Their overall strength was even stronger than the human race. However, the Yao race was savage and violent by nature. They had always been a sheet of loose sand. Although they were strong, they fought for themselves. There were also conflicts between the human race and the Yao race. However, both races had a common enemy, the other races. Therefore, they would often work together to deal with the other races. Now that the Yao race's world had been breached and the Yao race had fled into the human world, the impact on the human race could be imagined. Moreover, the Yao race had been defeated by the other races. It meant that the human race had lost a great support. They had to face the other races alone. The situation was naturally very grim. The wine saint continued, "The other races have come with a ferocious momentum. They are clearly determined to conquer the Yao race and the human race. The southern mystic divine realm's supreme being, Nan Xiandaozu, had already seen through the clues. He sent one of his avatars into the Yao race's world to investigate. In the end, he was killed by the other races. His main body was also heavily injured. Su Fang's heart was in turmoil. Daozu was a supreme existence at the peak of the human race. He had grasped the true essence of the great Tao and stood at the peak of the great Tao. He was almost immortal and indestructible. One of Nan Xiandaozu's avatars had died. It was clear how strong the other races were. The news has just spread, so the details are not clear yet. However, the Jiuquan divine realm will definitely fall into great turmoil. Your cultivation is too weak. Although it won't affect you for now, you will be affected soon. Su Fang, work hard to improve your strength. Once the other races completely conquer the Yao race, the human race will be next. Without strength, life is worthless. The wine saint sighed and took a big gulp of wine. He didn't say anything else. The experts left one after another. Hong Daoyuan didn't know if he was afraid, or he didn't want to stay. Perhaps he had other plans. After leaving the palace, he quickly left Daoless City. The other experts also didn't want to stay in the heaven-forsaken desolate region. They all returned to their own factions. Su Fang flew out of the city lord's mansion and arrived at the Chamber of Commerce. He planned to rent a cave abode and break through to the middle level of Dao Lord. Then, he would enter the Blood Valley to train and improve his strength as quickly as possible. The human world was about to fall into chaos and even face destruction. At this time, strength was the most important thing. Su Fang was recognized by the people of the Chamber of Commerce. It immediately caused quite a stir. In the past, the experts of the Chamber of Commerce had offended Su Fang. Now, they took the opportunity to curry favor with Su Fang to make up for their relationship. They arranged the best cave abode for Su Fang. The cave abode was located at the peak of the mountain. Not only was it rich in spiritual qi and mystic world essence, but it also had a time array. The flow of time was 30 times faster than in the real world. Su Fang was quite satisfied with the arrangement of the Chamber of Commerce. He stayed in the cave abode. Junior brother Su Fang. The wine saint's thought flashed out from the void and turned into a human figure. I will leave the heaven-forsaken desolate region and return to Xixian. I came to say goodbye to you. The wine saint's figure nodded. Then, he waved his hand and took out 3 rune talismans. He rolled them towards Su Fang and said, You lost the 6 extreme Tao Saint Dharma body and lost your life-saving means. These 3 rune talismans are formed by my Taoist rhyme, Dharmic power and will. The power of each rune talisman is equivalent to my full strength attack. Take it. Su Fang put away the rune talismans. He was very happy. Little did he know Xixian Daozu's majestic voice suddenly came from Su Fang's body. Meddlesome! Master. Chapter 2808. A moment later, the wine saint's true body flew out of the sky. Surprisingly, there wasn't a trace of alcohol on his body. His messy hair had also become soft and smooth. He looked very handsome and extraordinary. Only the Daozu could scare a Tao Saint expert to this extent. The wine saint said shakily, Master, you left a thought with junior brother Su Fang? This disciple does not dare, the wine saint hurriedly replied. In reality, he was muttering in his heart. Xixian Daozu was treating this junior brother too well. Then Xixian Daozu's majestic voice came from Su Fang's body. You only know how to drink and go crazy, where is your decency? The Yao race world has been invaded by the foreign races. The Jiuquan God realm is in danger. Why are you not quickly returning to Xixian? Yes, master. The wine saint said respectfully and then turned to leave. Su Fang suddenly said, Senior brother, wait. The wine saint said in surprise, What is it? Su Fang took out a xian guang from his palm. What was wrapped in it was a 7-colored blood lotus root. This is the 7-colored blood lotus root? Ha ha ha, this time the 7-colored blood lotus wine is finally available. Great. When the wine saint saw the 7-colored blood lotus root, he instantly revealed his true nature. He was so excited that he seemed to be drunk. His face was flushed red. At this moment, this 7-colored blood lotus root was far more important than any peerless technique or xian bao in the wine saint's mind. Xixian Daozu snorted coldly. This scared the wine saint so much that he trembled. He waved his hand and wrapped around the 7-colored blood lotus root. Little junior sect brother, senior sect brother will remember this great favor. When you come to Xixian, senior sect brother will definitely repay you. Farewell. The wine saint's figure flashed and then flew away. Su Fang stayed in the cave for 3 days. Then, he took out a rune talisman and transmitted his nascent spirit thought. Hua Tiannu, you once said in the Blood Valley that you wanted me to come out and establish my own force. Now, I have decided to establish my own force in the ancient Blue City. Is that true? Soon, Hua Tiannu's surprised voice came from the rune talisman. I'll leave this matter to you. I'll send someone to help you. Don't worry, as long as you raise your arm and call for help. Who knows how many cultivators in the heaven-forsaken desolate region will flock to you. What's the name of the force you've formed? Su Fang thought for a while and said, let's call it Fang Tianqing. The Jiuxuan god's domain was about to fall into turmoil. Although the news had not spread, and the heaven-forsaken desolate region had not been affected, Su Fang had to make preparations in advance. Not only did he have to increase his own strength, but he also had to increase the overall strength of the entire Jiuxuan region. He ended the conversation with Hua Tiannu. Su Fang released Qin Heng, Wu Meng, Xian Tianqing, the Formation Master Zhua, and nearly 3,000 experts from the Taoist Palace, and let them go to the ancient Blue City. They would be the core strength of his force. The ancestral Gragon was bored in Su Fang's Taoist Palace, and wanted to go with him. Su Fang naturally did not stop him. Su Fang also specially gave the Formation Master Zhua a combined attack technique that could be performed by many cultivators, and let him teach it to the experts under his command, so that they could practice it in the ancient Blue City. This combined attack technique was performed by Su Fang using the Heavenly Divination Solution and the Heavenly Divination Astrolabe, after countless formation deductions, the power of many cultivators, and the energy of heaven and earth. It was suitable for group attacks, and was somewhat similar to the sky-splitting formation that Su Fang taught to the mortals of the Gao tribe on the vast plains. After arranging his subordinates, Su Fang was silent for a moment. The heavenly Tao avatar condensed a thought, and entered the inner space of the builder tree. Su Fang's father Su Yaotian, as well as Xuanxin and other relatives and friends, all lived on the top floor of the builder tree. They each had their own palace, and usually cultivated in the palace. Su Fang's thought appeared in Su Yaotian's palace, and Su Yaotian, who was cultivating, immediately sensed it. He opened his eyes and smiled. Fang Father. The shadow formed by Su Fang's thought knelt down and kowtowed to Su Yaotian. Su Yaotian looked at Su Fang, and his eyes were filled with gratification. Due to the limitation of his talent, it was difficult for Su Yaotian to have any achievements in cultivation. However, he had a son like Su Fang, so what else could he ask for in this life? Su Fang said, Father, we have received news of grandfather's soul. He is safe and sound now, and it won't be long before our family can reunite. Su Yaotian was surprised and happy. Is that true? Su Fang didn't explain too much to prevent Su Yaotian from worrying. After communicating with Su Yaotian for a while, the attentive Su Fang noticed that his father's deep eyes faintly revealed loneliness. After thinking carefully, Su Fang suddenly understood. Although Su Yaotian didn't lack anything now, he was still a living person after all. He wasn't very interested in cultivation. When he stayed in the universe inside the heavenly Tao Dharma body, everyone was respectful to him, but he lacked the life of a normal person. How could he not feel lonely? It's my negligence. Su Fang immediately released his thought and gathered Xian Yintian, Xian Lingzi, Luo, and the others, as well as the Su clansmen, Bai Ling, Qing Yu, Li Haojie, and the Lord of Five Poisons. Xuanxin was in the midst of breaking through to the Transcendence realm, so Su Fang didn't disturb her. Then, Su Fang released his heavenly Tao Dharma body and let it bring Su Yaotian and the others out of the cave and into Taoless City. Except for Luo, Su Yaotian and the others couldn't withstand the shackles of the Jiuxuan divine realm, and could only stay in Su Fang's universe. Su Fang displayed his divine might and let everyone see the bustling scene of Taoist City clearly. Just like that, Su Fang's heavenly Tao Dharma body casually strolled around Taoist City. Seeing the difference between the Jiuxuan divine realm and the Pan Tsang world, everyone was incomparably excited. When I have enough strength, I'll let all of them integrate into the Jiuxuan divine realm. This way, their lives will be even more exciting. Su Fang's heavenly Tao Dharma body accompanied everyone and enjoyed this reunion with their loved ones. Inside the cave, Su Fang's physical body sensed this scene and his eyes flashed with determination and certainty. I have to quickly become stronger before the calamity affects the Eastern Xian divine realm. Otherwise, once my life is in danger, all my family and friends in the heavenly Tao Dharma body, and countless cultivators and big goblin transferred from the Pan Tsang universe will be destroyed. I have to return to the Pan Tsang universe as soon as possible to deal with the descent of the evil god. When I surpass the Tao Lord, I'll have the ability to bestow divine grace. This way, everyone can completely escape the shackles of the Pan Tsang universe and not be implicated by the destruction of the Pan Tsang universe. Su Fang entered the time formation with a sense of urgency that he had never felt before and began to settle into a state of cultivation. The cultivation technique that he was currently cultivating was still the Jiuxuan's Wuji scripture. The Jiuxuan's Wuji scripture was a mystery bestowed by the heavens and contained the supreme truth of the great Tao. It was the true path of seeking the truth. It was precisely because of the extraordinariness of the Jiuxuan's Wuji scripture that Su Fang's cultivation was destined to be pondered and comprehended by himself. From the boundless heavenly Tao, he could only find his own path of seeking the truth. Therefore, his cultivation was doubly difficult. Su Fang persisted in cultivating the heavenly fate shrinking technique, the heavenly divination unravel, the extreme Tao black yang technique, the Tao of formation, and various other techniques and abilities. The Xian Wang Dharma body wantonly devoured the 6 great spiritual items from the 6 extreme Tao saints' Dharma bodies and rapidly increased its strength. The Blood Fiend Dharma body continuously devoured Blood Fiend pills and Blood Fiend stones. However, in the world outside the Blood Valley, the Blood Fiend Dharma body's speed of improvement was far slower than the other Dharma bodies. In addition, Su Fang placed great importance on the cultivation of the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine Seed. The heaven-piercing Blood King Vine Seed was indeed extraordinary. Not only could it bring great strength to Su Fang, it could also provide Su Fang with astonishing vitality. Naturally, Su Fang had to put in a lot of effort. However, it was not easy to improve the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine Seed. It needed to devour a large amount of spiritual items, especially the flesh of cultivators that contained vitality. Only then could it continue to transform. Su Fang had accumulated the flesh of many experts in the past, including the corpse of an expert who had surpassed the Tao Lord level. The heaven-piercing Blood King Vine Seed had devoured more than half of the corpse of an expert who had surpassed the Tao Lord level. However, the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine Seed did not change much. It could be seen how vast the vitality essence needed to improve the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine Seed was. However, Su Fang was not in a hurry. One could not become a fatty in one bite. He could only take it slow. The improvement of the primordial spirit Dharma body was astonishing. Su Fang's primordial spirit Dharma body was cultivated with the second primordial spirit as the foundation. The power of the primordial spirit was incomparably strong. While using the Luo Tian wheel to comprehend the formation, the primordial spirit Dharma body also had great benefits. Naturally, the improvement was astonishing. Only the purple fate Dharma body did not have a good way to improve. It had to rely on opportunities and fortuitous encounters. QL11 in the chrono formation, he continued to settle and accumulate, forgetting the passage of time. Unknowingly, 100,000 years had passed in the chrono formation. In the outside world, more than 3,000 years had passed. On this day, Su Fang suddenly leaped out of the formation. Immediately after, the primordial spirit Dharma body that had brought many relatives and friends to travel quickly passed through the formation and entered Su Fang's Tao Palace. At this time, Su Fang's body erupted with astonishing tribulation qi. He had broken through. Su Fang's expression was calm and composed. He had long expected this to happen. Continue to grow stronger. Break through. Su Fang waited quietly for the breakthrough. He no longer cultivated, but tried to break through again to feel the transformation brought about by the breakthrough. The tribulation qi turned into flames, burning fiercely in the cave abode like a prairie fire. Tut tut tut. The breakthrough that was brewing in his body began to form an explosive impact. The familiar impurities in the placenta began to surge out. As Su Fang had fused with the heaven-piercing blood king Rattan seed, his physical body had absorbed a large amount of qi of fetal origin. His life and physical body had become more profound and powerful. Therefore, there were not many impurities in the placenta of this breakthrough. After a wave of painful impact, the tribulation fire gradually disappeared. Su Fang's body emitted a peaceful and quiet spiritual light. His hair flickered with brilliance, and every cell in his body glowed with an incomparably powerful life force. It was not just his physical body. His Tao Palace, Dharma body, and Tao heart had all undergone a transformation. Chapter 2809. The middle stage of Tao Lord is far from enough. Su Fang wiped the sweat from his forehead. His eyes were as calm and deep as an ancient well. Advancing to the next level was naturally a good thing. Su Fang's heart was filled with joy, but the sense of urgency did not lessen by much. He returned to the time formation. He continued to devour elixirs and spiritual items to replenish the huge consumption caused by the advancement, striving to stabilize the middle stage of Tao Lord as soon as possible. While he was cultivating in seclusion, news kept coming from ancient Blue City. Just as Hua Tiannu expected, the news of Su Fang establishing a force spread in the heaven-forsaken wilderness, and cultivators rushed to ancient Blue City. At this time, ancient Blue City had changed its name to Square Sky City. In just a few thousand years of development, it had become the second largest force in the heaven-forsaken wilderness, second only to the Taoist sect. The only thing it lacked was experts who surpassed the Taoist sect. However, there were also many problems. After all, Square Sky City had only been established for a short time. The new cultivators who joined were mixed, and most of them were bandit. In the heaven-forsaken wilderness, almost every cultivator had done things like killing and robbing. This was not strange. The main force of Square Sky City now was Su Fang's nearly 3,000 subordinates. Most of the others were a mob. Disobedience happened from time to time. Hua Tiannu, Qin Heng, and the others could not control the situation. After thinking for a while, Su Fang immediately left Taoist City with his heavenly Tao Dharma body and went straight to Square Sky City. With the heavenly Tao Dharma body personally overseeing the city, Su Fang was once a peerless overlord in the Pan Song universe. In addition to his supreme reputation in the heaven-forsaken wilderness, Su Fang had plundered countless resources in Blood Valley's second star killer city. It was naturally easy to unify Square Sky City. Su Fang stayed in the time formation for nearly 30,000 years and finally cultivated to the middle stage of Tao Lord. It's time to enter the Blood Valley to train. Su Fang finished cultivating and prepared to enter the Blood Valley for the second time. He activated his Blood Demon Dharma body and took out the blood-killing token to communicate with the space-time where the Blood Valley was. Unexpectedly, Su Fang, who could easily communicate with the Blood Valley in the past, now he could not sense it at all, which surprised him. Su Fang hurriedly asked the staff of the Chamber of Commerce. Turned out that 1,000 years ago, the Blood Valley had been completely sealed off. All the cultivators training in the Blood Valley had been sent out by the will of the Blood Valley. Outsiders were also unable to enter the Blood Valley for some unknown reason. The Blood Valley is a training ground for the cultivators of the Eastern Profound Divine Domain. Why did it close all of a sudden? Could it be related to the invasion of the demon realm? Su Fang was puzzled, and could only dismiss the idea of entering the Blood Valley for training. About 100 years passed. QL11, an incomparably powerful, will suddenly descended from the void, instantly enveloping the entire Daoless city. In an instant, every corner of Daoless city was enveloped by this supreme intent. Whether it was the ordinary mortals or the supreme masters like Daoless Sect Master, they were all trembling and suffocating. They couldn't muster any thoughts of resistance. Their Dao hearts were trembling and their wills were on the verge of collapse. This will definitely did not come from an expert. Su Fang was also quite familiar with it. It came from the laws of Jiuxuan. Why did the laws of Jiuxuan suddenly descend such an astonishing will? Is something big about to happen? Su Fang was shocked and aghast. The laws of Jiuxuan were jointly created by the supreme masters of the Jiuxuan divine domain. Although they did not have self-consciousness, they were like the laws of the heavenly Tao and had supreme will. It was truly inconceivable that the laws of Jiuxuan would suddenly descend their will. Suddenly, a dignified and cold voice rang in everyone's mind. 1,000 years later, the heavenly selection of Jiuxuan will be held. The heavenly selection of Jiuxuan? What was that? Su Fang couldn't help but be stunned. The dignified voice of the heavenly selection of Jiuxuan continued to ring. The heavenly selection of Jiuxuan is a selection of geniuses held by the divine domain of Jiuxuan. As long as you are a human, regardless of your background, your cultivation is below that of a Dao master or a Dao master, you are eligible to participate. Su Fang was extremely shocked in his heart. Soon after, a brilliant light bloomed in his eyes. The selection of geniuses from the divine domain of Jiuxuan was a grand event that had never been held in the history of the human race. Who wouldn't be excited to have the opportunity to participate in such a grand event? However, this was not the main reason why Su Fang was so excited. After coming to the Eastern Xian divine domain from the Pongtsang universe, Su Fang deeply understood how difficult it was for a cultivator from a low-level universe like him to stand out in the strict hierarchy of the Jiuxuan divine domain. If it weren't for Su Fang's talent, ability, Dao heart that surpassed the pinnacle, and supreme luck, as well as the great support of the Daozu of Shixian, he would have long been crushed by those great forces until not even dregs remained, let alone rise up against the heavens. And this Jiuxuan heaven's selection was undoubtedly an opportunity for Su Fang, a heaven-sent opportunity to rise up against the heavens and surpass the oppression and restraints of the great powers. The Jiuxuan heaven's selection will be held in the training grounds of the 9 divine domains. When the time comes, the 9 training grounds will be connected, and the cultivators will be able to go to other training grounds at will. The voice of heavenly laws from the Jiuxuan that followed made Su Fang immediately understand why the Blood Valley was sealed and why he couldn't enter it. The Blood Valley was a place in the Eastern Xian divine domain specially used for cultivators to train. In the Jiuxuan divine domain, every divine domain had a training ground like the Blood Valley that was specially used to cultivate geniuses. Now, in order to hold the Jiuxuan Heaven's Selection Grand Event, the 9 training grounds of the Jiuxuan Divine Domain would be connected. This also meant that cultivators from the Jiuxuan Divine Domain would have the opportunity to compete on the same level. How many cultivators below the Daolord level in the Jiuxuan Divine Domain were? With so many cultivators competing together, how difficult would it be to rise up among them? Those who can rise above the rest in the Jiuxuan Heaven's Selection will not only receive generous rewards, authority, and fame in the Jiuxuan Divine Domain, but also receive the full support of the Jiuxuan Divine Domain. The Jiuquan Heaven's selection is to select the true geniuses from among the cultivators of the human race and use the power of the entire human race to nurture them into top experts. The detailed rules of the Jiuquan Heaven's selection will be made public one after another. The cold and dignified voice of the Jiuquan Heaven's selection continued. There was a pause. The voice of the Jiuquan Heaven's selection was no longer dignified. Instead, it turned solemn and sighed. Young juniors of my race, you have encountered the best opportunity, but at the same time, you have also encountered the worst moment. Everyone, work hard. The voice gradually faded away and finally disappeared into nothingness. The Supreme will also disappeared without a trace. Whoosh! Exclamations and cheers rang out in Wudao City, shaking the entire city. Not only Wudao City, but the entire heaven-forsaken barren region, every mystic realm in Dongxian, and even the places where the humans of the Jiuquan divine domain lived could hear the voice of the Jiuquan Heaven's selection. Everyone was shocked and excited. Especially those cultivators who met the requirements to participate in the Jiuquan Heaven's selection, their fighting spirit was ignited. Su Fang was no exception. Opportunity. The Jiuquan Heaven's selection was undoubtedly a chance for a lowly cultivator like him to rise up. No matter what, he had to grasp this opportunity tightly. Su Fang clenched his fists tightly, a terrifying light flashing in his eyes. Shi Xian's Daozu suddenly called out from inside Su Fang's Jiuquan Daoist palace. Su Fang. Master. The foreign races have invaded the world of the Yao race, and humanity is facing a crisis of life and death. It is time for geniuses like you to step forward and shine. The Jiuquan Heaven's selection is a gathering of geniuses held to deal with the invasion of the foreign races. I order you to do your best. Shi Xian's Daozu was naturally involved in the Jiuquan Heaven's selection and had long known the inside story. Don't worry, Master. This disciple will do his best and will not embarrass Master. This Jiuquan Heaven's selection is a gathering of cultivators from the 9 divine domains. There are as many experts as there are clouds in the sky. The higher-ups of the human race have also reached an agreement with the Yao race. There will be experts from the Yao race participating in the Jiuquan Heaven's selection. Don't be careless. The Yao race is also participating in the Jiuquan Heaven's selection? You will know when the time comes. I am only revealing some things to you in advance so that you can be prepared. Remember, the goal I have for you is to enter the top 1,000 in the Jiuquan Heaven's selection. Enter the top 1,000? Su Fang was completely dumbfounded. In the Jiuquan divine domains, the number of Daolords and cultivators below them was incalculable. In the 9 divine domains, there were also many successors of Daozu's personal disciples like Dongxian, Hui Huang, and many other reclusive experts. There were also the experts of the Yao race. Those who could stand out from so many cultivators and demons and enter the top 1,000 were definitely geniuses among geniuses and experts among experts. In addition to strength, a certain amount of luck was also required. Shi Xian's Daozu's goal for Su Fang was to enter the top 1,000. How could Su Fang not be shocked? Su Fang stammered, Master, I am only an intermediate Daolord now. It hasn't even been 1,000,000 years since I started cultivating. In addition, I can't use some of my powerful techniques in the Blood Valley. The top 1,000 in the Jiuquan Heaven's selection, isn't that a little too ambitious? Shi Xian Daozu snorted. I am Shi Xian's Supreme Master. If this ancestor's personal disciple can't even enter the top 1,000, won't the other old fellows laugh at us? Not for yourself, but for my face. Do as you deem fit. Shi Xian Daozu's face was related to the entire Western Xian divine domain. What else could Su Fang say? He could only grit his teeth and agree. Don't worry, Master. For Master's face, this disciple will go all out this time, Shi Xian Daozu chuckled. That's more like it. Don't belittle yourself. This Jiuquan Heaven's selection will take a long time. You can train and improve as you go. Use the training to sharpen yourself and quickly increase your strength. There is still some hope for you to enter the top 1000. Shi Xian Daozu didn't think Su Fang could enter the top 1000, but he set such a goal for Su Fang. Su Fang was very depressed. Moreover, the rewards for this Jiuxuan Heaven selection will be beyond your imagination. Aren't you looking everywhere for spirit items that can nurture the heavenly Dao core? As long as your results are good enough, you can find it almost effortlessly. There are also many treasures and corresponding positions. As long as you are talented enough, you can easily obtain everything. Chapter 28:10. Shi Xian Daozu's encouraging voice sounded like a curse to Su Fang. It made Su Fang feel for the first time that becoming Daozu's disciple wasn't necessarily a good thing. It wasn't so easy to be Daozu's disciple. However, no matter what, Su Fang had to go all out this time. The Jiuxuan Heaven selection was an unprecedented event. How many times could a cultivator encounter such an event in their life? He had to seize the opportunity to shine brightly so that he wouldn't waste his life. Next, Su Fang entered the chrono formation and began to cultivate crazily to improve his cultivation and the strength of his various avatars and divine abilities. Su Fang didn't lack cultivation resources now. What he lacked was a long time to settle down. A mere 1,000 years was equivalent to 30,000 years inside the time and flowing time formation. To a cultivator, it was simply too short. In such a short period of time, it was almost impossible to raise his cultivation level to the upper level of Dao Lord. Su Fang could only think of ways to improve the abilities of his avatar, divine abilities, mystic treasures, and especially the sky-piercing Blood King Vine Seed. After spending more than 10,000 years in the flowing time array, Su Fang finally comprehended another peerless divine ability from the Yang Refinement Profound Transformation Technique. The heaven-piercing Blood King Vine Seed had finally matured to a young state after devouring all the cultivator corpses stored by Su Fang. The blood veins formed by the Blood King Vine covered the area above the chest. The improvement of his Essence Soul avatar was the most shocking. Not only did the power of his Essence Soul rise to a new level, it was comparable to the peak of the upper Dao Lord realm. Moreover, he had mastered all the level 2 formations in the Luo Tian wheel. His Essence Soul could enter the third space of the Luo Tian wheel to cultivate level 3 formations. His comprehension of the Heavenly Secret Life Shrinking Technique, Heavenly Secret Unravel, and other supreme divine abilities had become more profound. His Xian Wang avatar had also improved a lot. On this day, Su Fang's Heavenly Dao avatar suddenly returned from Square Heaven City. It wasn't that something had happened in Square Heaven City. During this period of time, Su Fang had the Heavenly Dao Dharma body to oversee the situation. He displayed the loftiness of a peerless overlord of the Pan-Tsang universe. He completely integrated Fang Tian City with an iron fist. Moreover, they had also swallowed up the surrounding forces, both big and small. Their overall strength had increased by 10 times. At this time, except for the fact that Square Sky City didn't have any experts surpassing the Daoless Lord level, its overall strength was already comparable to the Daoless sect. Its sphere of influence extended from the original ancient Blue City to the border of the Daoless sect's sphere of influence. The Daoless sect, the number 1 power in the heaven-forsaken desolate region, was threatened and challenged, but they were afraid of the Su Fang and did not dare to make a move against the heaven realm. For this reason, Pathless Sect Master personally came to Su Fang's cave residence in the Chamber of Commerce and had a long talk with Su Fang. Su Fang had no plans to dominate the heaven-forsaken desolate region. Besides, with Su Fang's talent, he would definitely be a peerless expert in Dongxian in the future. It was unlikely that he would stay in a barren land like the heaven-forsaken barren region that was lacking in resources. In the end, Pathless Sect Master left without worries. Su Fang's Heaven's Path avatar returned to Daoless City because Xuanxin had finally transcended from a low-level universe, which was the false god in the Joshwan god realm. QL11 When he was in the Fire Luo mystical world, Su Fong had killed an ice feather Luan. It was a divine beast that far surpassed the divine phoenix of the Pan Song universe. After so many years of integration, Xuanxin's improvement speed was naturally astounding. Now, he had finally transcended. Xuanxin's ascension was naturally a joyous occasion. Su Fong stopped cultivating and put down everything to accompany Xuanxin for 10 years, touring the heaven-forsaken desolate region. Xuanxin had finally transcended the Pan Song universe. He was naturally in a good mood, so he proposed to walk around the heaven-forsaken desolate region. Su Fong had to prepare for the Jiuxuan heaven selection and had no time to spare. He asked ancestral Gragon, Qin Heng, and a dozen experts to accompany Xuanxin. At the same time, he also asked Xiao Shuiqing to accompany him. Zhong Daiyun also volunteered to accompany him. In the heaven-forsaken desolate region, with Su Fong's reputation and power, no cultivator dared to have any ideas about his Dao partner. Moreover, there were so many experts accompanying him. Su Fong was naturally very assured. Next, Su Fong continued to settle into a state of cultivation and focused on improving his strength. Not only Su Fong, but also the heaven-forsaken desolate region, the Eastern Xian Divine Realm, and even the entire Jiuxuan Divine Realm, almost all the Daolords and cultivators below Daolords were preparing for the Jiuxuan Heavens selection. In the Eastern Xian Divine Realm, many cultivators who were very far away from the heaven-forsaken desolate region immediately rushed to the heaven-forsaken desolate region when they heard the voice of the Jiuxuan will of heaven. Even if they passed through the profound gate, it was difficult to reach the heaven-forsaken desolate region in 1,000 years. Moreover, most cultivators could not even afford the cost of passing through the profound gate. Fortunately, for the sake of the Jiuxuan Heavens selection, all the Daolords and cultivators below Daolords who were going to the heaven-forsaken desolate region were exempted from the profound gate. It did not matter if they could not make it in time. They would only be a little late to enter the Blood Valley and suffer a little loss. For true geniuses, this was almost negligible. As the date of the Jiuxuan Heavens selection approached, the Daolord city, the heaven-forsaken desolate region, and even some ruins were filled with cultivators. The formerly desolate heaven-forsaken desolate region had become extraordinarily lively. With so many people, all kinds of disputes naturally increased, causing the heaven-forsaken desolate region to become even more chaotic. 100 years before the Jiuxuan Heavens selection officially began, an old and majestic voice spread throughout the heaven-forsaken desolate region. This seat is from the Eastern Profound Heavenly Pavilion, and my name is Tuo Qianji. I was appointed by Lord Dongxian Daozu to be in charge of the Jiuxuan Heavens selection Blood Valley selection. This was not a heaven law from Jiuxuan, but a supreme expert from the Eastern Profound Heavenly Pavilion, Tuo Qianji. He was probably at the same level as the Wine Saint, or perhaps even stronger. This seat will now announce the rules of the Jiuxuan Heavens selection. As soon as Tuo Qianji's voice fell, all the cultivators in the heaven-forsaken desolate region pricked up their ears, afraid that they would miss a word. The Jiuxuan Heavens selection begins with an elimination round, followed by an elite round, and finally the final round. Since the training grounds of the divine realms in Jiuxuan are different, the rules of the elimination round and the elite round are set according to local conditions. The Blood Valley is divided into the heavenly kill, earthly kill, and human kill zones. The elimination round will be held in the human kill zone. Cultivators who have the Blood Fiend Dharma body and have the title of Divine General of Bloody Kill can enter the elite round directly without participating in the elimination round. Tuo Qianji's announcement caused an uproar. Such a rule was obviously beneficial to cultivators who had entered the Blood Valley before, especially those Divine Generals of Bloody Kill, who didn't need to participate in the elimination round directly, so it was naturally very easy. Many cultivators were very dissatisfied with the rules set by the Eastern Profound Heavenly Pavilion, but no one dared to say anything. Su Fong breathed a sigh of relief. He was now a 2-star Divine General of Bloody Kill, so he naturally didn't need to participate in the initial elimination round. With more time, he might be able to break through to the upper Dao Lord realm, which would increase his chances of success. The rules of the elimination round are very simple. All participants will each receive a Heaven's Chosen token. In the human kill zone, you can snatch the tokens of other participants. The time limit is 10,000 years. In the end, according to the number of tokens snatched, the top 100,000 people will enter the elite round. The elite round will be held in the earthly kill zone. After Lord Daozu personally remodeled it, Starkiller City no longer exists in the human kill zone of the Blood Valley. The entire human kill zone is the area of the elite round. The rules of the elite round are similar to the elimination round. The number of tokens snatched will determine the final 10,000 people to enter the final stage of the Eastern Profound Divine Realm. The final 1,000 people will be selected to go to the Middle Profound Divine Realm to participate in the final stage of the Jiuxuan Divine Realm. The final stage of the Blood Valley will be held in the Heavenly Kill Zone. Remember, the Heavenly Kill Zone is connected to the training grounds of other divine realms. In other words, the cultivators who enter the final stage can go to the training grounds of other divine realms. There will also be cultivators from other divine realms entering the Heavenly Kill Zone. Not only cultivators but also experts from the demon realm. The specific rules of accumulating points will be explained in detail in the tokens given to you. This seat will not explain too much. In the Jiuxuan Heaven selection, if you encounter a life or death crisis, you can activate the token to leave the Blood Valley. However, this is equivalent to giving up your right to participate in the competition. There is one thing that this seat must remind you in advance. After all, there is a process to activating the Heavens Selection token. It cannot guarantee the absolute safety of every participant. If you admit defeat or fail to activate the token in time, you will be responsible for the consequences. The murderer will also not be held accountable. When Tua Qianji said this, a burst of exclamations rang out in Daolis City and the other mystic realms and ruins of the heaven-forsaken wastelands. Apart from Su Fong, who knew in advance that experts from the demon race would participate in the Jiuxuan Heaven's selection, the other cultivators had no idea. With experts from the demon race participating, this meant that the Jiuxuan Heaven's selection would be even crueler. What shocked many cultivators the most was the rule that the murderer would not be held accountable. This also meant that this Jiuxuan Heaven's selection would set off a bloody storm in the Blood Valley. Who knew how many cultivators would die in it? Some cultivators whose Dao hearts were not firm enough, and who did not have much confidence in their own strength, even began to think about retreating. The rules of this Jiuxuan Heaven's selection are actually so simple. However, the simpler the rules, the fairer it is. Relying on one's true strength is the fairest way. Su Fong understood the rules of the Jiuxuan Heaven's selection and was immediately relieved. Since he did not need to participate in the elimination round, it was equivalent to having an extra 1,000 years. With the help of the time formation in the cave abode, it was equivalent to having an extra 30,000 years. It was not impossible for him to break through to the upper level of Dao Lord. Therefore, Su Fong continued to cultivate in seclusion in the cave abode. He wanted to successfully break through to the upper level of Dao Lord before the elite competition began. Unexpectedly, not long after Su Fong entered the state of cultivation, a man's voice came from outside the cave abode. "Is Su Fongda here?" Su Fong could tell that the man's voice came from a high-level member of the Chamber of Commerce. He did not know why he suddenly wanted to see him. Su Fong asked, "What is it?" Chapter 28:11. Change his abode? The abode Su Fong rented was the best one in Wudao City's Chamber of Commerce. Su Fang mainly valued the chrono formation inside the abode that sped up time by 30 times. The Jiuxuan God selection was about to begin, and Su Fang wanted to make use of the limited time to break through to the upper realm of Tao Lord. Now that the Chamber of Commerce had asked Su Fang to change his abode, how could Su Fang agree so easily? A cold voice came from inside the abode. What? Did I not pay enough rent to the Chamber of Commerce? Or is it because there are too many people in Wudao City, and the Chamber of Commerce wants to increase the rent? How much do you want? Tell me, I, Su Fang, can still afford it. Su Fang did not lack money now. Su Fang had plundered the second city of slaughter in the Blood Valley and now had control of Fang Tian City. There were alchemy and artifact refinement sites in the city. Now that the Jiuxuan God selection was about to begin, cultivators had gathered in the heaven-forsaken wilderness. This was still Su Fang not wanting to be distracted. If he was willing, he could personally refine the silver-striped blood pill. Those participating in the Jiuxuan God selection would be scrambling for it. With Su Fang's current status, how could he lack money? The upper echelon of the Chamber of Commerce said apologetically, Su Fangda must be joking. Even if the Chamber of Commerce wants to increase the price, how could we dare to raise Su Fangda's price? Then why do you want me to change my abode? It's a young master from Zhongxian. He has a great background and has taken a fancy to Su Fangda's abode. He's willing to pay double the price as compensation. Su Fang's tone immediately turned displeased. He then said indifferently, So it's because of my status as Su Fang that I don't have the right to stay in this abode, is it? The upper echelon quickly said, We wouldn't dare. It's just that. Young Master Yi Feibai comes from the Central Xian Divine Region's 5 divine families. His identity is extraordinary. He came to Dongxian to play and couldn't return to Zhongxian to participate in the Jiuxuan's heavenly selection, so he planned to enter the Blood Valley. Without waiting for the upper echelon of the Chamber of Commerce to finish speaking, Su Fang said coldly, Sorry, even if the exalted venerable spring and autumn comes, I won't change my abode. The Chamber of Commerce executive had no choice but to leave in embarrassment. Inside the Chamber of Commerce, there was a private room used to entertain VIPs. It was a young man in white who was only 18 or 19 years old. He had a slender and handsome face and 2 sword-like eyebrows. His eyes were sharp and fierce, and there was always a trace of an unruly smile on the corner of his mouth. A young man sat opposite the white-clothed young man. It was Dong Xianjun. Behind the white-clothed young man stood an ordinary red-haired old man. However, the old man's aura was ethereal, as though he had fused with the surrounding space. He was actually a peerless expert who had surpassed the Daolord realm, and he was at least a sector lord. Such a powerful old man was actually following behind the white-clothed young man like a follower. It could be seen that the white-clothed young man's identity was indeed shocking. Just as he was conversing with Dong Xianjun, the white-clothed young man suddenly raised his sword-like eyebrows. Dong Xianjun said in surprise, Young Master Yi, what's the matter? The white-clothed young man's lips curled into a cold smile. I didn't expect that in the heaven-forsaken desolate region, there would still be people who don't give me face. Su Fang. Interesting. A very obscure smug look flashed across Dong Xianjun's deep eyes. He said, that Su Fang thinks that they have contributed in stopping the invasion of the foreign races, and they don't even care about Lord Hong Daoyuan of the Heaven's Fate stage. Young Master Yi Feibai is from the Supreme Yi clan of the Middle Profound Realm. How would a frog at the bottom of the well like Su Fang know about the reputation of the Yi clan? It's not strange that they don't give you face. Yi Feibai snorted and said, Su Fang. It's just an abode. I don't care about it. I have a mobile abode. How can the abode of the Chamber of Commerce be compared to it? I only want that abode to settle down the people below. Since Su Fang doesn't want to give it up, then forget it. Dong Xianjun was very disappointed, but he didn't show it on his face. He smiled and praised, "Young Master Yi Feibai is so magnanimous. No wonder you're from the middle profound Yi clan." Yi Feibai glanced at Dong Xianjun and smiled arrogantly. "Dong Xianjun, I know that you've been thwarted by Su Fang. You just want to use me to help you vent your anger." Dong Xianjun smiled embarrassedly. He didn't expect Yi Feibai to be so astute. He could see through his thoughts at a glance. Yi Feibai then nodded and said, "However, if we can meet in the Blood Valley, this young master would like to see what kind of person Su Fang, who was praised to the heavens by the cultivators of the heaven-forsaken desolate region, is. At the same time, I can help you vent your anger." Dong Xianjun was overjoyed. He cupped his fists and thanked, "Thank you, young Master Yi." 100 years passed in the blink of an eye. During this time, the East Profound Heaven Pavilion not only announced the detailed rules of the elimination round, but also announced the rewards for the cultivators who passed the elimination round. Those who passed the elimination round and entered the elite round would receive generous rewards and the attention of the major forces. Those who performed outstandingly would gain both fame and fortune. However, these rewards were only for ordinary cultivators. They weren't very attractive to the disciples from the major forces. Su Fang wouldn't care about these rewards either. In the sky above Daoless City, the experts of the Heaven Pavilion created a 1,000-mile-long scroll. It was the chosen god list used to announce the results of the participant. For ordinary cultivators, if they could appear on the chosen god list, even if it was just a flash in the pan, it was enough for them to brag about for the rest of their lives. The Jiuxuan Chosen God Elimination Round begins now. Those who want to participate in the elimination round, activate your Chosen God token and enter the Blood Valley. I wish you all good luck in advance. The voice of the East Profound Heaven Pavilion expert, Tua Qianji, resounded throughout the entire heaven-forsaken wilderness. Swoosh! Swoosh! Countless cultivators entered the Blood Valley from various places in the heaven-forsaken wilderness after activating their chosen god tokens. There were also some cultivators, especially those who were confident in their strength, who were not in a hurry to enter the Blood Valley. They planned to wait until the elimination round in the Blood Valley had progressed to a certain extent before entering the Blood Valley. There were also some cultivators who couldn't make it to the heaven-forsaken wilderness because of the long journey. As long as they entered the Blood Valley before the elimination round ended, their results would still be recognized. Su Fang sat cross-legged in his cave abode and cultivated. He didn't care about the elimination round. Suddenly Su Fang, who was sitting cross-legged in the time array, suddenly raised his eyebrows. A fierce aura flashed in his eyes as he quickly passed through the array and flew out of the cave abode. Whoosh! A thought flashed and turned into Qin Heng's shadow. Qin Heng had been protecting Xuanxin and traveling in other places in the heaven-forsaken wilderness. Now that he had suddenly returned, this thought looked very blurry. He could barely maintain his human form. Su Fang shouted, "What happened?" The shadow formed by Qin Heng's thought said urgently, "Master, something bad has happened. Mistress encountered an expert on her way back to Daoless City. 3 of her subordinates died. Mistress is now trapped." "Where is she? Who did it?" Su Fang's heart suddenly sank. He originally thought that nothing could happen to Xuanxin in the heaven-forsaken wilderness and with an expert accompanying her. He didn't expect that something really happened. It could be said that this was an unexpected disaster. It's not far from Daoless City. I don't know where the expert who attacked her came from. I want to see who dares to attack my Dao companion in the heaven-forsaken wilderness. Su Fang's heart burned with anger. Then he used the burning light escape technique and rushed out of Daoless City. After half an hour, Su Fang arrived in the void outside Daoless City. He fixed his eyes on it. A giant ship that was thousands of feet long was floating in the void. It emitted a shocking aura of Xian Bao. The dazzling Xian Guang shone for thousands of miles. It was impossible not to attract attention. This Xian Bao flying ship was a king-grade Xian Bao that surpassed the peak of the supreme grade. It was definitely not something that an ordinary cultivator could own. Even if an ordinary cultivator had such a Xian Bao, they could not bear the shocking consumption of energy needed to operate the flying ship. Qin Heng's thought transmitted his primordial spirit to Su Fang. Master, it's this flying ship. When we were protecting Mistress, the people on the flying ship discovered the ancestral dragon. They suddenly suppressed the ancestral dragon and said that they wanted to use it as a mount. I reported Master's name, who knew that the flying ship would suddenly erupt with the divine power of a formation and trap us in the formation. I was lucky enough to break out of the shackles and was able to escape to report to Master. Su Fang said, "It seems that the people on the flying ship are here for me. Moreover, according to the divine power of the flying ship's formation, the reason why your thought could break out of the shackles was not because of luck. The people on the flying ship deliberately let you escape." Qin Heng was shocked. Could they have deliberately lured Master here? Who are these cultivators to be so arrogant? No matter who they are, I won't allow them to be arrogant in the heaven-forsaken wilderness. I, Su Fang, will never let them off for killing my subordinates and attacking my Dao companion. Su Fang was about to charge towards the flying ship with a fierce killing intent. Suddenly, the Xian Guang on the heavenly ship flashed. More than 10 figures were swept out by the Xian Guang. Among them, there were 3 women. They were Xuanxin, Zhong Diun, and Qiu Shuiqing. The others were the cultivators that Su Fang sent to protect Xuanxin. Qin Heng's original body was also present. However, the ancestral dragon and the other 3 subordinates were nowhere to be seen. Su Fang's figure flashed and quickly arrived in front of Xuanxin. QL11 seeing Xuanxin, Su Fang could not suppress the anger in his heart. Xuanxin did not seem to be injured. However, the white jade mask on her face had disappeared. On the face that was revealed, there was an additional black leaf pattern between her eyebrows. It was extremely strange and ugly, completely destroying Xuanxin's peerless beauty. Su Fang. Seeing Su Fang, Xuanxin, who had a strong Dao heart, also had red eyes. My face, Su Fang sensed it. His eyebrows immediately rose like swords. It turned out that the black leaf pattern on Xuanxin's face was an extremely powerful imprint. It was very difficult to remove. In other words, it was equivalent to Xuanxin being disfigured. How could Su Fang not be angry? Su Fang did not ask what happened. If someone dared to humiliate Xuanxin, he would just kill them. There was no need to know the reason. More than 100 miles away from the flying ship, Su Fang stood in the air and said in a voice full of killing intent, "Whoever wants to see me, Su Fang, can directly go to Wudao City to find me. Why are you targeting my family?" Chapter 28:12. Yi Feibai. Su Fang was stunned for a moment before recalling that young Master Yi Feibai from one of Middle Xian's 5 divine tribes had once wanted to rent the cave residence he was currently living in, but he had been rejected. What a coincidence! Yi Feibai's voice continued. This young master has come to Dongxian for a tour this time. I've long heard that the Eastern Xian divine domain has produced an extraordinary genius, so I wanted to meet you. Coincidentally, the divine dragon under your command is extraordinary, so this young master caught it as a mount and brought you here to see how extraordinary you are. Su Fang's deep eyes were brimming with cold, killing intent. Yi Feibai, the mark on my Dao companion's face, was it also your doing? That's right. This reputed one saw that your Dao companion had a peerless beauty, but she was only a false god. How could a false god be worthy of such a beauty? I might as well destroy it. Yi Feibai's light voice came from inside the airship. Then, he smiled proudly. The mark on your Dao companion's face was left by this young master's ultimate skill, Blackwood Palm. Even if she dies, it can't be erased. I wonder if you'll still treat her as your Dao companion after she's turned from a peerless beauty to an ugly monster. Su Fang's eyes grew colder. There's no enmity between us, why are you doing this? You're from Middle Xian Divine Domain's Divine Cultivation Tribe. Are you taking revenge on me because I didn't give up my cave residence? That's not the case. This young master is magnanimous. I won't take revenge on you for such a small matter. This young master is just teaching you a lesson, to let you know that ants should have the awareness of ant. Savior of the human race. Haha, this young master doesn't like it when I hear it. Besides, this young master came to Dongxian this time because I owe a favor to a friend of Tiange, so I'm teaching you a lesson on behalf of that friend. Dongxian Jun. Su Fang understood immediately. Yi Feibai's voice came through the airship's barrier. This young master is about to enter the Blood Valley to train. I don't have time to waste on an ant like you. This young master is in a good mood today, and I don't want to kill anyone. Gram. You don't want to kill anyone, but I want to kill someone today. Su Fang shouted coldly, grabbing hundreds of sword energy, and executing the sword art of 6 harmonies, turning into a sword array that attacked the airship. Boom! Boom! When the sword formation struck the flying boat's barrier, it only caused the barrier to tremble, but it didn't break at all. A dragonfly trying to shake an iron pillar. You overestimate yourself. Yi Feibai sneered disdainfully. Go chase this fly away. It's time for this young master to enter the Blood Valley. Whoosh! A thought flew out of the flying boat's enchantment and instantly turned into a huge tree that covered the sky. Countless branches intertwined, shackling the Su Fang in the center. Chi! Chi! The branches waved and stabbed toward Su Fang. A mere thought of a Taoist master wants to deal with my Su Fang? Heaven-piercing Blood King Vine. Su Fang activated the sky-piercing Blood King Rattan. A blood-red vine emerged from his right hand and quickly entangled the incoming tree branch. In the blink of an eye, the tree branch formed by his thoughts was sucked clean. Whoosh! The Blood King vine directly pierced through the shackles of the thought, and then, in turn, wrapped around the countless branches formed by the thought and wantonly devoured it. Soon, the thought was completely devoured. Yi Feibai's astonished voice rang out, Sky-piercing blood vine? You're actually raising sky-piercing blood vines? Interesting. Just a little interesting? Su Fang revealed a cold and domineering smile. He took a step forward and arrived 1,000 feet away from the flying boat. With a wave of his right arm, the blood-red vine wriggled out like a blood-red python and attached itself to the enchantment outside the flying boat. QL11 Chi. 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 Countless blood-red threads gushed out from the blood-red vine and quickly seeped into the enchantment, madly devouring the enchantment's energy. This flying boat was a king-grade Xianbao, and it was also a mobile cave. Although it didn't have any offensive capabilities, its defense was astonishing. Not to mention a Taoist master, even if a Taoist master personally attacked, it would be difficult to shake the enchantment in the slightest. However, Su Fang's sky-piercing Blood King vine was so extraordinary that it easily seeped into the enchantment and continuously devoured it. Sooner or later, it would break the enchantment. What kind of sky-piercing Blood King vine is this? It can actually destroy this young master's treasured boat? Yi Feibai was obviously astonished. No wonder Dongxian Jun suffered a loss in your hands. But so what? Yi Feibai first snorted disdainfully, then flew out of the treasured boat. He wasn't alone, there were more than 30 cultivators following behind him. Su Fang's divine light swept over Yi Feibai and the cultivators behind him, and a look of astonishment instantly appeared in his eyes. Yi Feibai looked like he was only 18 or 19 years old, but he was actually an intermediate Taoist master. His aura was really powerful, no wonder he was so arrogant. There were more than 30 subordinates behind him, and except for a red-haired old man who was a peerless expert who surpassed the Taoist master level, the others were all Taoists. As expected of a young master from one of the 5 great divine clans of the central profound divine domain, he actually had so many experts with him. Yi Feibai indeed had the right to be arrogant. This young master is going to enter the Blood Valley. I'll leave this person to you. Let him live for now. When this young master comes out of the Blood Valley, I want to see this person shackled in the treasured boat. Yi Feibai said to the experts under his command. Yes. More than 30 Daozu experts bowed to Yi Feibai in unison. Be careful, this person has a luck spider. Remember, don't hurt the luck spider. It's the supreme fortune of this young master coming to the eastern profound divine domain this time. Yi Feibai took out the heaven's chosen token and warned his subordinate. As it turned out, the main reason he attacked Su Fang wasn't because of Su Fang's reputation, nor was it because of Dong Xianjun. It was because of Su Fang's luck spider. After that, Yi Feibai activated the heaven's chosen token, released a divine aura, and disappeared into the void. Then, a ray of bloody light surged out from the void and enveloped Yi Feibai. After that, it tore through the air and disappeared without a trace. From the beginning until the end, Yi Feibai didn't even look at Su Fang. It was as if looking at Su Fang would tarnish his eyes. Suppress him. The red-haired elder didn't attack. He naturally knew Su Fang's identity. If he personally attacked Su Fang, he would be punished by the heavenly laws of the Jiuxuan. At his command, the 3 Dao Lords released their thoughts, which turned into palm prints, ropes, and cages that pressed down on Su Fang. You're courting death. Su Fang released a dozen or so thoughts with a whoosh. These thoughts all came from the profound Yang body and contained the profound Yang Daoist rhyme. As soon as Su Fang released them, they immediately turned into bright red suns. A Daolord cultivator can release a dozen or so thoughts at once without expending much energy. This Su Fang can barely be called a genius. The Daoist rhyme, dermic power, and intent contained in these thoughts are all extraordinary. The ability he releases should be quite extraordinary. Yi Feibai's subordinates were actually pointing at Su Fang's thoughts and snorting disdainfully. Boom, boom, boom. The divine suns formed by the thoughts suddenly exploded, turning into thousands of dazzling divine lights that instantly lit up the endless void. Apart from the red-haired elder, the eyes of the 30 Daolords were burned by the divine might contained in the divine light. As if they were burning, they let out miserable cries. The divine might contained the power to blind people and even temporarily make them lose their thoughts and other senses. Caught off guard, the 30 Daolords all suffered a great loss. The thoughts that the 3 Daolords released to restrain Su Fang were also shattered because of the chaos in his Dao heart. The technique that Su Fang used was a divine ability from the Yang refinement art, bright Yang dazzling flash. This was a technique that used the profound Yang divine might to attack the enemy's vision and senses. Although it couldn't kill people, it could make people lose their senses for a short period of time, turning them blind and deaf. In the next moment, Su Fang activated the blood demon body and released a series of thoughts that turned into slaughter sword chi and formed a sword formation that swept towards the Daolords under Yi Feibai. Pooh! 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 Those Daolords' eyes were burned by the bright Yang dazzling flash, and their Dao hearts were unstable. Under the impact of Su Fang's slaughter sword formation, 5 Daolords' bodies and Dao hearts were instantly shattered by the sword chi, whereas the bodies and Dao hearts of the other 10 Daolords were shaken. What a despicable kid! Join forces and suppress him. The red-haired elder was furious. He released a strand of thought that transformed into a ray of green light that flashed past those Daolords, and it swept away all the injuries caused by the bright Yang dazzling flash and the slaughter sword formation. After that, he ordered those Daolords to attack Su Fang together. Over 30 Daolords and an expert that surpasses the Daolord realm. It's not a waste of the treasures that senior brother gave me. Su Fang laughed coldly, and then he flipped his right hand, causing a talisman to appear on his palm. This talisman was extraordinary, and it was given to him by the Wine Saint before he left. It contained the Wine Saint's thoughts, and it was capable of unleashing the Wine Saint's strongest attack. At this moment, Su Fang was burning with rage because of Xuanxin's disfigurement. Moreover, he was facing so many Daolords, and there was even a peerless expert that surpassed the Daolord realm. So, he directly took out the talisman that the Wine Saint gave him. It was actually quite a waste to use the Wine Saint's strongest attack against Yi Feibai's subordinates, and it was like using a divine martial cannon to kill flies. The reason Su Fang was willing to take it out was because Shi Xian Daozu seemed to be slightly displeased when the Wine Saint gave him these 3 talismans. Obviously, he didn't want Su Fang to rely too much on external forces, so Su Fang didn't cherish these 3 talismans. As soon as the talisman was crushed, a dense and pungent smell of alcohol instantly suffused the air. Under the control of Su Fang's thoughts, it enveloped all of Yi Feibai's subordinates, including the red-haired old man. The smell of alcohol contained a unique aura of the Tao, and its might was strange and formidable. It wasn't just the bodies and avatars of those Daolords, even their Tao hearts, wills, and quintessence souls seemed as if they were drunk, and they immediately lost consciousness. They were just like drunkards that clearly possessed normal auras, yet their consciousness had been completely paralyzed. Chapter 28:13. The rune talisman given by the Wine Saint was just this tyrannical. A mere rune talisman was able to turn a powerful expert that surpassed a Daolord and over 30 other Daolords into a group of drunkards that were completely at the mercy of Su Fang. Su Fang was also shocked and astonished by the powerful and peculiar power of the rune talisman. He released a divine aura that sucked all of Yi Feibai's subordinates into the Daolord Palace. He sensed that these cultivators wouldn't be able to wake up in a short period of time. Even that red-haired old man would probably need at least 1,000,000 years before he could wake up on his own. Su Fang completely dispelled the idea of shackling these cultivators as slaves. However, he couldn't just let them go to waste. Su Fang's heaven-piercing Blood King Vine needed to continuously devour life and blood energy in order to grow and improve. Su Fang was just worrying about where to find the nutrients for the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine to improve, and these cultivators happened to be readily available. Moreover, Su Fang didn't plan to suck these cultivators dry in one go. Instead, he wanted to rear them like pigs and sheep. The strength of these cultivators was extraordinary. Except for one expert that was comparable to the master of the profound world, the rest were all Daolords. They possessed boundless life energy and astonishing recovery ability. They were no different from being unconscious after being drunk, but their life force was still there. After devouring their life and blood energy, they would quickly recover. Moreover, there were so many of them that it was enough for the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine to grow. Just like this, Su Fang suddenly had over 30 blood pigs. In the future, he wouldn't have to worry about the life and blood energy that the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine needed. At this moment, he had fused with the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine. The life and blood energy that the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine devoured would also allow Su Fang's life to continuously transform. In this way, Su Fang's speed of improvement was naturally incomparably shocking. Moreover, the consequences of using the Heaven's secret life shrinking technique were no longer as serious to Su Fang as before. Yi Feibai, I'll let you live in the Blood Valley for a while. When you come out of the Blood Valley, you'll die. Seeing the black mark on Xuanxin's face, ancestral Gragon being restrained by Yi Feibai and losing 3 of his subordinates, Su Fang's joy of obtaining more than 30 blood pigs was replaced by a sharp killing intent. Looking at the airship, Su Fang's eyes flashed with ruthlessness. Let's take Yi Feibai's Xian Bao first. Su Fang immediately released a thought that enveloped the Xian Bao. Who knew the Xian Bo was indeed a king-grade Xian Bo? Seeing that the situation was not good, the original soul in the Xian Bo controlled the Xian Bo and quickly shrank to less than 3 feet in size. The Xian Bo flashed and was about to escape into nothingness. The Xian Bo that I, Su Fang, have set my eyes on has never been able to escape. Su Fang revealed a domineering smile. He had the purple fate avatar and had the ability to control all kinds of Xian Bo coupled with the Heaven's secret life shrinking technique. There was no Xian Bo that could escape from his grasp. Whoosh! A mysterious purple light flashed from between Su Fang's eyebrows and immediately enveloped the Xian Bo. A will and power that could control the Xian Bo and force it to submit rushed into the interior of the Xian Bo. The airship Xian Bo was indeed extraordinary. It madly collided with the divine power released by the purple fate avatar, trying to break free from the shackles of the divine power. Amazing! As expected of a king-grade Xian Bo. Even the purple fate avatar can't suppress it. Looks like I have to put in some effort. Su Fang wasn't surprised that the airship Xian Bo was so difficult to subdue. Instead, he was delighted. Without hesitation, he used the Heaven's secret life shrinking technique. It wasn't any other ability of the Heaven's secret life shrinking technique, but the life-pulling karma thread. The Xian Bo wasn't much different from a human. Other than not having a physical body, it also had self-awareness. From the day it was born, it had its own destiny. The life-pulling karma thread condensed from the aura of Tao ignored the Xian Bo's defenses. It passed through the layers of formations and landed on a phantom within the airship. It was the original spirit of the airship. It looked like a white-haired old man. The life-pulling karma thread landed on the phantom's body, firmly entangling its ethereal destiny. The life-pulling karma line trembled slightly, and the struggling shadow immediately calmed down. At this moment, the fate of the airship's original spirit and the entire airship was firmly controlled by Su Fang. This method of fusion was much more stable than using blood essence to fuse with the Xian Bo. Unless Su Fang died, the Xian Bo wouldn't be able to escape Su Fang's control. Next, Su Fang activated the Celestial Yang avatar and released the Celestial Yang flame. It completely refined the blood essence that Yi Feibai had fused with the Xian Bo. From now on, the king-grade Xian Bo no longer belonged to Yi Feibai. It belonged to Su Fang. Subduing the king-grade Xian Bo had cost Su Fang quite a bit. A few strands of white hair grew on his temples. Su Fang immediately activated the heaven-piercing blood king vine and wantonly devoured the blood essence of the blood pigs. It then seeped into Su Fang's body. The blood essence swept through his body and burned into the flame of life. It allowed Su Fang's depleted life force to quickly recover. Su Fang sucked the flying vessel into his Taoist palace. A thought entered the Xian Bo's space and communicated with the origin spirit. He found out that the Xian Bo was called the Peach Soul Sky Crossing Vessel. It was made from the Peach Soul Sky Crossing Vessel that grew in the depths of the chaos. Not only did the Peach Soul Sky Crossing Vessel have the ability to travel through the chaos, it also had the effect of increasing one's comprehension and cultivation with half the effort. The Peach Soul Sky Crossing Vessel is indeed a good treasure. I'll take this Xian Bo as a little interest. Obtaining the king-grade Xian Bo didn't reduce Su Fang's killing intent towards Yi Feibai by much. QL11 He separated a dozen thoughts and used them to cultivate the hand seals and formations inside the Peach Soul Sky Crossing Vessel. Then, Su Fang sucked Xuanxin, Qin Heng, and the others into his Taoist palace. Xuanxin, just watch. After I've dealt with my enemies, I'll find a way to help you recover your looks. Su Fang used the incandescent escape art and headed straight for Daoless City. After entering Daoless City, Su Fang didn't return to his residence but flew towards the depths of Daoless World instead. In the depths of Daoless World, the dojos of the Daoless sect were now occupied by cultivators from Dongshuan's various forces as palaces to prepare for the Jiuxuan's heavenly selection. Almost all the cultivators from the various forces had experience in the Blood Valley. Many of them had the title of Divine Warrior of Sanguine Slaughter and didn't need to participate in the initial elimination rounds. Dong Xianjun was one of them. Su Fang used his great perfection sensory ability, and at the same time, used the heavenly secret life shrinking technique to project his senses out. Soon, he caught Dongxian Jun's presence in a mountain range. With a flash, Su Fang flew towards the mountain range. There was a strong boundary outside the mountain range. Su Fang had to stop. Dallas Sec's dojo is here. It is now the place where Dongxuan's geniuses cultivate in seclusion. Who dares trespass? Dozens of thoughts flashed out of the boundary, turning into the silhouettes of Dallas Sec's experts. Coincidentally, one of the powerful thoughts came from Dallas Sec's left emissary, Fan Wuliang. Su Fang had seen this person once in the carefree divine pavilion, so of course he recognized him. Su Fang Da. When emissary Fan saw that it was Su Fang, the silhouette formed by his thoughts almost collapsed. In emissary Fan's mind, Su Fang was the nemesis of the Dallas Sec's left emissary. How could he not be afraid? Su Fang Da, I wonder why Sir has come to Dallas Sec's dojo? Emissary Fan trembled, afraid that Su Fang had come to find trouble with him because of the incident in the carefree divine pavilion. Su Fang said coldly, Open the boundary. I want to visit a genius of the Heaven Pavilion. Which genius of the Heaven Pavilion does Sir want to visit? Why? Are you also going to ask about my business? I dare not. Emissary Fan did not dare to delay. He quickly opened the boundary passage and let Su Fang in. Su Fang went straight to the dojo where Dongxian Jun was. When Emissary Fan saw this, his heart suddenly thumped. It's over. Su Fang flew to the sky above the dojo. He waved his hand and rolled out a black thing, smashing it toward the boundary outside the dojo. The black thing rapidly grew in size as it fell. Finally, it turned into a huge black rock that was hundreds of feet tall and smashed into the boundary with a boom. This rock was transformed from the stone essence. After years of constantly absorbing the essence of the earth element, its strength had greatly increased. When it smashed into the boundary, it was like a huge mountain falling. It caused the boundary to flicker and shatter layer by layer. The entire dojo was shaking violently. Su Fang then grabbed the air and sucked the stone essence into his body. He looked down at the dojo and said in a voice full of killing intent, Dongxian Jun, get out here. His voice was like a sudden clap of thunder. Su Fang, you've gone too far. Dongxian Jun flew into the air from the inside of the dojo with towering rage. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Many cultivators flew out from other dojos as well. They were all genius disciples from the major factions of the Eastern Xian divine domain. Gu Tianqi, Dongxian Jing, Ling Xingqian, and the others were among them. Seeing Su Fang come in anger and attack Dongxian Jun's dojo directly, many geniuses were shocked beyond belief. The Jiuxuan Heavenly Selection was a once-in-a-lifetime event. Which genius wasn't preparing for the elite competition? Even if they had great grudges, they would put them aside and put the Jiuxuan Heavenly Selection first. Su Fang had come to Dongxian Jun's dojo to cause trouble when the Jiuxuan Heavenly Selection had just begun. This puzzled many people. Gu Tianqi asked, What happened, Su Fang? Su Fang pointed at Dongxian Jun and said coldly, This despicable man has been using all sorts of despicable methods against me ever since he lost to me in the Blood Valley. I've been holding back all this time. This time, he actually instigated Yi Fei Bai of the Central Profound Divine Region to ruin the face of my Tao companion and kill the experts under my command. Does he really think that I, Su Fang, am a soft persimmon that anyone can bully? Realization dawned on the geniuses as they looked at Dongxian Jun with disdain. Even some of the Eastern Xian Divine Pavilion's disciples had the same look. Although these geniuses were all unconvinced by Su Fang, they were still geniuses after all. They had their own pride and would prove themselves with their strength, but it was shameful to play dirty tricks behind their back. Besides, Su Fang was still a Dongxian cultivator no matter how much others hated him. Dongxian Jun had gone overboard by instigating outsiders to attack Su Fang's Tao companion and subordinate. Dong Xianjun said angrily. Su Fang, you're slandering me. How could this reputed one do something so despicable? Chapter 28:14. Gu Tianqi's words made the surrounding geniuses burst into laughter. Dong Xianchen and Dong Xianchan couldn't help but laugh out loud. They had experienced Dong Xianjun's overbearingness and despicableness before. They had offended Dong Xianjun in the Blood Valley's second star killer city because of Su Fang. As soon as they left the Blood Valley, they immediately returned to the Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion as they were afraid of Dong Xianjun's revenge. They had only returned to the heaven-forsaken desolate region when the heavenly selection began in the Jiuquan. How could they not be pleased when they saw the once awe-inspiring Dong Xianjun being attacked by Su Fang and mocked by Gu Tianqi? Everyone's gazes and laughter made Dong Xianjun feel like a clown. His handsome face was instantly shrouded in a haze. However, Gu Tianqi was more famous than him. Gu Tianqi was also much stronger than him. What Gu Tianqi said was the truth, so he couldn't refute Gu Tianqi. Therefore, he vented his anger on Su Fang. You're the one who's arrogant and reckless enough to provoke young Master Yi Feibai. You don't dare to look for young Master Yi Feibai, so you came to slander me. Do you think I'm easy to bully? Do you think the Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion is easy to bully? You don't dare to look for young Master Yi Feibai? Su Fang sneered. He waved his hand and a figure appeared. It was the red-haired elder beside Yi Feibai. However, this red-haired elder, whose cultivation had surpassed a Dao Lord, was like a living corpse at this moment. He had lost his previous awe-inspiring aura. Then, Su Fang grabbed another Xian Bao. It was the Peach Soul Sky crossing vessel. Dong Xianjun recognized Yi Feibai's subordinate and the Xian Bao. His expression changed instantly as he shivered. Impossible. This is impossible. Su Fang has lost his 6 extreme Dao Saint celestial body. How can he still be so powerful? He can even suppress an expert who has surpassed a Dao Lord. How can young Master Yi Feibai's mobile cave dwelling be robbed? Although the other geniuses couldn't recognize the red-haired elder and the Peach Soul Sky crossing vessel, they could tell that the elder was a peerless expert who had surpassed a Dao Lord. From the Xian Bao's aura, but the Soul Xian Bao, and the others, were, and young Master Yi Feibai. When he leaves the blood, and as well he will's Soul Bao. Him too dies him. His Tites Xian Bao's. You say I don't dare? Dong Xianjun shuddered and subconsciously stepped back. Bracing himself, he asked, What do you want? Of course. I'm going to kill you, Su Fang said in a chilling voice. Dong Xianjun was enraged. Su Fang, don't push me too far. I'm not a pushover. I don't care if you're a pushover or a pushover. How dare you humiliate my Su Fang's family? I'll beat you to a pulp. Su Fang pounced towards Dong Xianjun in a ferocious manner. Humph, I'd like to see what else you can rely on to be so arrogant. Dong Xianjun immediately released his 5 elements sword body. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Hundreds of thoughts condensed into a sword pill. They released streaks of sword chi that intertwined and turned into a 5 elements sword formation that charged at Su Fang. Bright sun-dazzling flash. Su Fang activated his Xian Yang celestial body. He released dozens of thoughts, which turned into a fiery red divine sun. Then, a blinding golden light burst out. Ever since Dong Xianjun was defeated in the Blood Valley, he had studied Su Fang deeply. He was very clear about the various divine powers that Su Fang had mastered. Su Fang's sudden display of the supernatural power from the extreme Dao Black Yang tactic caught him off guard. His Dharmakaya and physical body felt a burning pain in their eyes. The world they sensed turned red, and the attack of the sword formation also became sluggish. Yang Extermination Divine Fist. Su Fang punched out, stirring up a gust of strong wind. It turned into a whirlpool and swept towards Dong Xianjun. He wanted to kill Dong Xianjun, so he used the bright sun-dazzling flash to deceive Dong Xianjun's senses. What he used now was the real killer move. Yang Extermination Divine Fist. This was another supreme divine power that Su Fang had comprehended while cultivating the extreme Xian Yang tactic all these years. It was 10 times or even 100 times more powerful than the bright sun-dazzling flash. The extreme Xian Yang tactic was a supreme divine power that could control the extreme Yang energy. Yang energy was the source of life for all things in the world. Meanwhile, the Yang Extermination Divine Fist was a supreme divine power that could cut off the Yang aspect of all things. It was a supreme divine power that could destroy life. The whirlpool that contained Su Fang's thoughts released a terrifying Taoist aura and power that could devour Yang energy and destroy life. As it spun, Dong Xianjun's 5 elements sword formation collapsed. The whirlpool wrapped around Dong Xianjun's 5 elements sword body and spun. The 5 elements also contained yin and yang. Su Fang's Yang Extermination Divine Fist destroyed the yang aspect of the 5 elements sword body, causing yin and yang to collapse. Boom! Dong Xianjun's 5 elements sword body collapsed layer by layer. In the end, it shattered and turned into a pile of dust. Dong Xianjun's most commonly used avatar was also destroyed by Su Fang's punch. Dong Xianjun's physical body was also heavily injured after one of his avatars was destroyed. He spat out a mouthful of essence blood, and his aura weakened. The genius of Dong Xianjun's heavenly pavilion actually had one of his avatars destroyed by Su Fang. Is Su Fang too strong, or is Dong Xianjun undeserving of his reputation? Formidable. Too formidable. Even a peak Tao Lord would be annihilated by a single punch of this divine ability that Su Fang executed. The geniuses in the surroundings were in an uproar, and they were extremely shocked and surprised. Unexpectedly, even Gu Tianqi had never imagined that Su Fang would be able to destroy one of Dong Xianjun's avatars as soon as he attacked. Su Fang, you destroyed my avatar. I won't rest until you're dead. Dong Xianjun had gone completely mad after one of his avatars was destroyed, and he let out a furious roar that shook the heavens and the earth. Dong Xianjun's ambition was higher than the heavens, and he'd set his ambition a long time ago. He wanted to cultivate 6 avatars before advancing into the Tao Lord realm. Thus, Dong Xianjun had always suppressed his cultivation at the Tao Lord realm and hadn't broken through to the Tao Lord realm. How difficult was it for a cultivator to cultivate a Dharma body? Talent, resources, and providence were all indispensable. Now that Su Fang had destroyed one of Dong Xianjun's avatars, it was equivalent to cutting off his cultivation path. It was almost impossible for him to cultivate again. How could Dong Xianjun not be furious after such a heavy loss? Won't rest until you're dead? You instigated Yi Feibai to kill my subordinates, capture the ancestral dragon, and destroy the face of my Tao companion. Do you think I'll let you go? Su Fang revealed a cold smile and activated the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine. At the same time, he released the Spider King, and was about to kill Dong Xianjun in one fell swoop. Su Fang was like this. Whoever dared to touch his family was crossing his bottom line, and he would kill them at all costs. Dong Xianjun had the Calamity Avatar, so he could naturally sense the presence of the Spider King. His expression changed instantly, and he shouted in anger, Su Fang, how dare you use the Spider King against me? Aren't you afraid of the punishment from the Heaven Pavilion? Su Fang, stop. A dignified voice laced with anger rang out. With a flash of divine light, an apparition formed by the will appeared in front of Su Fang. A terrifying will came crashing down. Su Fang staggered and retreated continuously. The heaven-piercing Blood King Vine, that was about to be released from his body, was also forcefully suppressed. The Spider King was also trembling under the frightening will. It was a white-haired elder in a gray robe. Although it was only an apparition formed by the will, it exuded an unparalleled majesty. Just the pressure of the will alone made Su Fang completely lose his ability. Tua Qianji. This elder was Dongxian Pavilion's expert, Tua Qianji, who was presiding over Jiuxuan's heavens selection this time. Tua Qianji's brows furrowed as he shouted at Su Fang, "Su Fang, it's not enough for you to kill Dongxian Jun's avatar. You even want to use the Spider King to deal with him. How arrogant and despotic! Do you think that you can act so recklessly just because you've stopped the invasion of the foreign tribes and contributed greatly to Dongxian?" Dongxian Jun was relieved when he saw that he had a powerful backer. His deep eyes were filled with pride. Under the pressure of Tua Qianji's will, Su Fang's jade-colored Dao heart was also trembling, as if it would shatter at any time. He raised his head with difficulty and said through gritted teeth, "Dongxian Jun instigated Yi Feibai, destroyed my Dao companion's face, and killed my subordinates. The one who is arrogant and despotic is him, not me, Su Fang. How dare you quibble in front of me?" Tua Qianji's white brows raised, about to unleash his thunder of fury. Gu Tianqi cried out loudly, "Sir, Dongxian Jun was at fault in this matter. No wonder Su Fang attacked so viciously. Please spare Su Fang this time." "How dare a disciple of the three venerable mysterious sects talk nonsense in front of me?" Tua Qianji snorted coldly and waved his sleeves. A palm print appeared in the air and slapped Gu Tianqi's face, sending him flying. Boom! Tua Qianji's attack on Gu Tianqi immediately triggered the Jiuxuan's heavenly law, causing a thunderous roar from the void. Scram! Tua Qianji shouted domineeringly. A cold light flashed in his eyes and a powerful will erupted, suppressing the heavenly law punishment that was brewing. The heavenly court's experts were so domineering that they could even suppress the Jiuxuan's heavenly law. Of course, this was also because he did not kill Gu Tianqi. The power of triggering the Jiuxuan's heavenly law was not strong. Otherwise, with Gu Tianqi's ranking on the heavenly ranking, he would not be able to withstand the heavenly law punishment. However, this person dared to look down on the Jiuxuan's heavenly law. It was enough to show how domineering and powerful this person was. The Eastern mysterious heavenly court is indeed domineering. Su Fang's eyes flashed with determination. 2 runes appeared in his palm. They were the runes given to him by the wine saint. Tua Qianji looked at Su Fang, his eyes flashing with a domineering light. Suddenly Tua Qianji's gaze changed slightly. His gaze on Su Fang turned from sharp and domineering to indifferent. He snorted and said, "Since you've contributed to Dongxian, I'll spare you this time. Focus on participating in the Jiuxuan's heavenly selection. If you can't show Dongxuan's might in the finals, I won't spare you." Tua Qianji's drastic change shocked Su Fang. He did not understand, but he felt that it was impressive.